Chapter 1917. Yes, so what if I'm here? If you have the ability, come and kill me for revenge. Eteonyun stood where he was and smiled. He knew that Celestial Terminus Star Lord wouldn't dare to come over. His position was the best place to fight. If he left that region, the other star venerates would immediately occupy it. Alright, boy, just you wait. When I snatch this golden divine grass, you will die without a doubt. No matter where you escape to, no matter what force you belong to, you will die. Celestial Pole Star Lord snorted angrily and closed his eyes again. On the side, the Divine Cauldron Star Lord had a strange expression on his face, but in fact, he was laughing in his heart. He did not expect the Celestial Pole Star Lord to be so idiotic as to want to be enemies with Eteonyun. Eteonyun was the young lord of the Jade God Ancestral Land, who would dare to oppose him. The Divine Cauldron Star Lord felt that the Celestial Terminus Star Lord was dead for sure. He also felt that he was too ignorant and could not even guess this. He was really an idiot. The rest of the Celestial Lords also had a strange expression. They also guessed that Eteonyun was the young master of the ancestral land of the Jade God. Otherwise, how could he be so unscrupulous and powerful? They racked their brains and searched countless times, but they still couldn't figure out which faction had such a heaven-defying existence. As for going to the ancestral land of the Jade God to verify it, even if he had similar thoughts, he would have to go there to verify it. Currently, they were still waiting for the golden divine grass, so they did not have such thoughts. This was especially so when it had nothing to do with them. They could not be bothered to say anything more. They could not wait for the Celestial Pole Lord to be destroyed. This Celestial Terminus King didn't think that I was the young master of Jade God Ancestral Land? Eteonyun was a bit confused. Logically speaking, Celestial Lord of Heavenly Extremity should know something, but Celestial Lord of Heavenly Extremity didn't seem to think that he was the young master of Jade God Ancestral Land. As he was thinking this, the light released by the golden divine grass became more and more astonishing, as if it would explode at any moment. Soon, the last bit of green on the golden divine grass was covered in gold. The moment it covered the seemingly unremarkable golden divine grass, a phantom image suddenly appeared. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that it was the phantom image of a huge golden mountain. Next, the golden divine grass began to grow at a crazy rate. Originally, it was only a few inches tall. Now, it began to grow 1 zhang at a time. In the blink of an eye, it had reached a height of over 100 zhang. Not only did it grow extremely tall, but it was also spreading out in all directions. At this moment, it no longer looked like a small blade of grass, but rather a huge golden divine tree. Mature, it's about to mature. The many star venerates felt excited as they stared at the golden divine grass. This included the Heavenly Extremity Star Venerate, who clenched his fists tightly, preparing to snatch it. He had already set up a great formation here. This was his greatest advantage. With the support of the great formation, he really wouldn't have much confidence in snatching it away. Only Star Lord Divine Cauldron stared at Celestial Terminus Lord. He kept thinking about what Eteonyun had said, which was to kill Celestial Terminus Lord and everything would belong to him. No matter who the golden divine grass belonged to in the end, wouldn't he still be the most popular one? Eteonyun, who was watching from the outside, was amazed by this scene. This was the golden divine grass. It had been maintaining an unremarkable scene, and no one could discover it. At the final moment of maturity, it quickly burst out in its most perfect form. However, it had been discovered long ago. After all, there were many sharp-eyed experts, and Celestial Terminus Lord was one of them. Soon, when the golden divine grass had completely matured, the phantom image of the golden mountain in the void shrank and returned to the golden divine tree. At the same time, it began to shrink rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it had turned into an extremely mature golden blade of grass, one that had grown legs. After growing legs, the golden divine grass ran outside, turning into a golden ray of light. The mature golden divine grass was like a human. Naturally, it quickly escaped to avoid being caught. But how could it escape? Celestial Terminus Lord had already set up a great formation here. Once it matured, it would immediately seal the golden divine grass. Trying to escape? Impossible. Celestial Terminus Lord's eyes were filled with golden light. He quickly formed a seal with his hands, and the surrounding great formation surged. Several golden light pillars pierced down, nailing the golden divine grass in midair. Not to mention escaping, it was directly frozen in midair. In an instant, the golden divine grass was sealed, and it couldn't escape at all. It had been nurtured for tens of thousands of years, yet it was caught just as it matured. It had to be said that this was the fate of a divine medicine. The sealed golden god grass continuously twisted and turned, wanting to escape from the seal. However, with its strength, how could it escape? No matter how it writhed, there was no meaning to it. "You are mine." Celestial Terminus Lord's eyes narrowed, and he reached out to grab the golden divine grass. As long as he put the golden divine grass into his pocket, everything would be over. He might not be able to fight against so many celestial venerables, but it wouldn't be a problem for him to escape. But at this moment, several beams of divine light pierced through and shattered the seal. The golden divine grass sensed that the seal was broken, so it immediately ran outside. "You!" Celestial Terminus Lord flew into a rage. He had guarded it for so long, so how could he let it go to waste? "Celestial Terminus Lord, how could I let you enjoy such a good thing alone?" Celestial Lord Pei Cheng, who was at the side, laughed loudly. He waved his hand, and a huge net, which could cover the entire deity realm of the lower realms, quickly descended. It seemed like they were also prepared for such an inescapable net. "I have prepared for so many years. How could I let you ruin it?" Celestial Terminus Lord roared, and he quickly took out his Star Dharma idol, releasing a level 5 Star Dharma idol. The power of a Celestial Lord immediately allowed him to control the power of the 5 directions. Celestial Terminus Lord was indeed powerful. He could control the power of the 5 directions, which immediately increased his combat strength by 10 times. Not only that, but he also had the support of the Great Formation, which immediately raised his strength to a whole new level. Scram! Celestial Terminus Lord erupted with a vast power, and a huge illusory battle wheel floated up. This battle wheel could release a blazing combat strength, which greatly increased his strength. Immediately, he grabbed at the void, and a huge battle wheel appeared in his hand. He waved it wildly, and an invincible light slashed out, turning everything it touched into ruins. In an instant, the surrounding celestial lords were shaken away. He was not injured, but it was already very impressive to be able to shake off the fierce attacks of several celestial lords. However, there was one who was not shaken away, and that was the Divine Cauldron Lord. A Divine Cauldron appeared behind the Divine Cauldron Lord, which offset the attack. At the same time, he also erupted with his strongest power, as if he was going all out, wanting to completely suppress Celestial Terminus Lord. "Whoever suppresses Celestial Terminus Lord with me, when I get the golden divine grass, I will definitely give him half." Seeing that Celestial Terminus Lord was so overbearing, the Divine Cauldron Lord knew that it would be too late if he did not make a move. He originally wanted to sneak attack, but now it seemed like he could only face it head-on. Chapter 1918. The Divine Cauldron Star Lord's words shocked the other Star Lords. The Divine Cauldron Star Lord was obviously going all out. Not only did he use his full strength, but he was even willing to give up half of the golden divine grass. Generally speaking, the effects of the golden divine grass would be the greatest when consumed in its entirety. However, the effect of taking half of it was still not bad. Especially now that there were too many monks and not enough gruel, no one was willing to submit to the other. However, if the battle continued, it would be easy for both sides to suffer. If there were people working together, things would be different. If the two of them worked together, their chances of obtaining the treasure would greatly increase. In particular, the Divine Cauldron Lord's own strength was not bad. If they worked together, it would not be difficult to defeat the Heavenly Terminus Lord. The Sword Wind Star Lord held his long sword and created a sword wind that tore through the void. Divine Cauldron Star Lord, is that true? It's absolutely true. If I manage to snatch the golden divine grass, I'll definitely give you half. The heavens and earth can be my witness. The Divine Cauldron Star Sovereign stretched out 2 fingers and immediately swore an oath. It was a simple oath without too many deadly words. However, the twinkling of the stars in the sky meant that the oath had been successfully made. As long as it was violated, the Divine Cauldron Star Lord would definitely be severely punished by the heavens. The Divine Cauldron Star Lord naturally did not want to split the golden divine grass in half, but in order to give the ancestral land of the Jade God a good explanation, he could only choose to throw caution to the wind. After making such an oath, even if the Jade God ancestral land wanted the golden divine grass by force, half of it would be given to Star Lord Sword Wind. His heart ached a little, but from the looks of it, this was all he could do. All right, then I'll join forces with you to deal with the Celestial Terminus Lord. The Sword Wind Star Lord nodded and did not waste any time. He immediately took out his star aspect, and a long sword appeared behind him. It created a whistling sword wind and cut through the void. The 2 star Venerates working together made the heavenly pole star Venerate's face sink. This was especially so since these 2 were not easy to deal with. Naturally, he had to take them seriously. As for revenge, he had long thrown it to the back of his mind. He was too lazy to even look at Eteonyun. The 2 star Venerates outside exchanged glances. Unless they also worked together, how could they snatch it? Let's work together. If we manage to snatch it, I'll give you half as well. Alright, no problem. The 2 Star Lords outside immediately reached a consensus and formed a large camp. They were all forced to do this. They didn't want to join hands at first, because joining hands meant that they would have to split the profit. Now that the Divine Cauldron Star Lord and the Sword Wind Star Lord had joined forces, there was no reason for them not to join forces. Do you think you can deal with me by joining hands? How naive. Celestial Terminus Star Lord laughed out loud. The war wheel in his hand rotated again, and layers of power stacked on top of each other. The effect of the battle wheel was astonishing. As it rotated, its combat power would rise steadily. This effect increased as it became more compatible with the war wheel. It was a pretty good star aspect. No wonder the Celestial Pole Star Lord was so domineering, monopolizing a faction. It turned out that he really had great strength. Kill! The Divine Cauldron Star Lord also took out his Divine Cauldron and fought head-on with his opponent. As the 2 sides clashed, energy fluctuations constantly spread out in all directions. Eteonyun's side had already retreated to the back, so the shock waves didn't affect them. A battle between star sovereigns is truly too terrifying. Qingxue was stupefied as she watched from behind. If she were to stand under this energy fluctuation, she would probably be easily shattered. How can we compare to the power of a celestial lord? We can't compare to the power of a celestial lord. Han Long was a little excited. He rarely saw celestial lords fight, especially so many celestial lords, which was even rarer. The biggest sign of a celestial lord was the number of celestial lords they controlled. The strongest among them was the Celestial Terminus Star Lord, who could control 5 celestial lords and 6 celestial lords. This meant that he had 12 times the power, which was extremely powerful. The other celestial lords only had 4 or 5 celestial lords' star power, which was slightly inferior to the Celestial Terminus Star Lord. This was enough to prove that the Celestial Terminus Star Lord's control of power was stronger than theirs. In addition to the difference in cultivation, a celestial lord's control of the power was also the effect of controlling several celestial lords. If one's cultivation was weaker, one could make up for it by controlling more celestial lords. Some early-stage celestial lords could crush late-stage celestial lords by relying on this point. Rumor had it that some heaven-defying geniuses could sense the power of the stars very well. They could easily control more than 7 or 8 celestial lords, and the power they released was even more terrifying. The further they went, the more terrifying the superposition would be. Tianyun nodded and smiled faintly as he watched them fight. He didn't even need to spend much effort to deal with the celestial lord. Then, the celestial lord was forced to retreat, and the golden divine grass floated around. No one could get it. However, it seemed that the divine cauldron Star Lord and the others had a higher chance of getting it. Damn it! I won't let you get it even if I die. The celestial lord activated his power again and charged forward. With a loud bang, the divine cauldron Star Lord and the others were sent flying and injured. The celestial lord was seriously injured, and his face was pale. It had to be said that the celestial lord was not simple to be able to fight his way out of the two celestial lords' battle. However, according to the situation, the celestial lord couldn't hold on for too long. If he continued, the golden divine grass would definitely be snatched away. Boom! 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 The fierce collision set off a series of explosions. In the end, the divine cauldron Star Lord and the others suffered serious injuries. On the other hand, the celestial lord was already at his limit. If this continued, he would definitely die. The golden divine grass floated in the void and was not snatched away by anyone. The two celestial lords on the side watched covetously. They wanted to see who would win and then snatch it. This situation naturally made the divine cauldron Star Lord anxious. If this continued, he was afraid that someone would succeed, and they would end up doing nothing. My guess was wrong. This celestial lord is too strong. How can his combat power be so abnormal? The divine cauldron Star Lord complained incessantly. He thought that it would be easy, but now it seemed that it was not easy at all. If this continued, he would not be able to hold on. It was the same for the Sword-Wind Star Lord. He had attacked countless times, but the Celestial Pole Star Lord was able to withstand it. Young Master of the ancestral land of the Jade God, haven't the reinforcements arrived yet? The Divine Cauldron Star Lord turned his head and shouted at Tianyun. In a moment of desperation, he could only seek help from Tianyun. He wanted to help, but he couldn't guarantee that he could kill the Celestial Lord. It would be good if someone else could help, but now he was in an extremely awkward situation. You said he is the young master of the Jade God ancestral land? The Celestial Lord, who had been repelled, raised his hand and pointed at Tianyun. Celestial Lord, it seems that you are really stupid. Have you become stupid after staying here? He is so talented, yet he can still destroy your ancestral land. Isn't he the young master of the Jade God ancestral land? The Divine Cauldron Star Lord sneered. Now, do you know who you have provoked? Ha ha! The Celestial Lord sneered. It seems that you have been fooled. He is not the young master of the Jade God ancestral land. Idiot! Chapter 1919. The moment the Celestial Pole Star Venerate said that, everyone was stunned, including the surrounding star venerates. Tianyun's identity was fake? Fake? How is that possible? How could he have destroyed your celestial terminus ancestral land without a powerful backer? Star Lord Divine Cauldron didn't believe Celestial Lord's words. You call me an idiot? You're the real idiot, aren't you? Celestial Lord sneered. None of you are as familiar with the Jade God ancestral land as I am. I've seen the young master of the Jade God ancestral land, and I'm the one who works for it. It seems you're overthinking things. The celestial terminus ancestral land has been famous for a long time. Why hasn't it been destroyed by those seemingly righteous forces? Because they wouldn't dare to touch my celestial terminus ancestral land even if they had 10 guts. Celestial terminus Star-Lord said in a deep voice. I didn't expect that after so many years, an unknown brat would appear out of nowhere and destroy my celestial terminus ancestral land. I don't know which power you belong to, but you can destroy my power. But no matter what force it is, anyone who dares to provoke me and the Jade God ancestral land will die. Star-Lord Divine Cauldron, I was wondering why you worked so hard. So you were instigated. It seems that being too low-key is a mistake. I've always tried to rely on my own strength to control everything. I don't want to rely on the power of the Jade God ancestral land. If I can become stronger with my own strength, the Jade God ancestral land will think highly of me and value me. I didn't expect that in the end, others would use the prestige of the Jade God ancestral land to deal with me. What a miscalculation. Celestial Lord looked coldly at Eteonyun and said, Kid, I really didn't expect you to be so good at fooling us. Star-Lord Divine Cauldron, are you going to deal with me first this time? Bastard, how dare you lie to me? Star-Lord Divine Cauldron roared and immediately turned his attack to Eteonyun. The invincible cauldron crazily expanded and turned into a towering cauldron. Celestial Lord didn't make an oath, so Star-Lord Divine Cauldron immediately believed him. The main thing was that when he thought about it for a while, it was true. Only the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land did something inhumane, which was to enslave cultivators from the lower realms. Generally speaking, those who acted rashly would definitely not be able to tolerate it. However, the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land had always been safe and sound. No powers dared to provoke them. This proved that they knew that the Empyrean Terminus ancestral land had a backer. After figuring this out, the Divine Cauldron Star-Lord immediately erupted and attacked fiercely, wanting to vent all his anger on Eteonyun. This time, he didn't even want the golden divine grass. He just wanted to kill Eteonyun to vent the anger in his heart. Brat, let's see what you can do this time. Celestial Terminus Star-Lord snorted coldly. He didn't even need to personally take revenge. Someone else would help him deal with it. Qing Shue's face turned pale. She hadn't expected such a reversal. Celestial Lord of Celestial Terminus was the one who truly served the ancestral land of Jade God. Wasn't this the same as provoking the ancestral land of the Jade God? Not to mention Qing Shui, even Han Long was worried. Let's not talk about the ancestral land of the Jade God for the time being. The several Star Lords in front of him were enough to make him suffer. Didn't this mean that the plan had failed? Moreover, it was a complete failure, and he had also provoked 2 forces. Brat, you turned out to be a liar, catch him. The Divine Cauldron Star-Lord didn't attack him. The elders who had been watching from the side were furious. A large part of the responsibility for this kind of mistake was related to them. Now, they could only catch Eteonyun to make up for it. Several Star Masters rushed over. Due to their anger, they burst out with their strongest power, wanting to catch Eteonyun. Eteonyun didn't despair because of this, nor did he show an expression of unwillingness. Everything was within his expectations. From the beginning, he had planned to kill the Celestial Terminus Star-Lord by himself. It didn't matter if the Divine Cauldron Star-Lord helped or not. It was just that the ancestral land of the Divine Cauldron was also not a good person. Since they had provoked him, he would also be dragged into the water. Therefore, it was nothing to be seen through. To him, it wasn't that the plan had failed, but that the plan had never changed. How could it be considered a failure? Everything was just giving him another wave of star energy. This old servant. Han Long's body straightened, and he wanted to burst out with all his strength. Eteonyun stretched out his hand to stop him. In an instant, the phantom of the 5-colored Emperor Dragon appeared behind him. He didn't even transform into his main body. He stepped forward into the void, and violent power splashed in all directions. Several elders who had rushed over were directly blown up and turned into a mist of blood. In the blink of an eye, several elders were easily beheaded, as if they were vegetables. However, the greatest enemy was still the Divine Cauldron Star Lord, who was the most terrifying existence. Brat, you have some ability, but everything ends here. Everyone below the Star Lord is an ant. The Divine Cauldron Star Lord quickly suppressed him. The huge Divine Cauldron pressed down, and there was no way to escape. The invincible giant cauldron was like an invincible divine mountain, enough to smash everything into meat paste. Although the unique star aspect was powerful in the eyes of these great figures, before it grew up, everything was trash. If not for his fear of Tianyun's identity as the ancestral land of the Jade God, he would have already made a move. Now that he knew that he had been tricked, he didn't have to worry about Tianyun's life. Facing such pressure, the pressure on Qing Shui and Han Long doubled. They couldn't even stand up, and they directly knelt on the ground, unable to move. The power of a Star Lord was too strong, especially when the Divine Cauldron Star Lord used the star power from all directions to increase his own strength. Logically speaking, with such a gap, there was no need to use the star power above. However, the Divine Cauldron Star Lord was really mad with anger. If he wanted to kill, he would kill them all without leaving any room for maneuver. Is everything over? Qing Shui struggled to raise her head to look at Tianyun. She saw that he was still standing straight, as if nothing could suppress him. My lord, quickly escape, don't worry about us. Qing Shui felt that Tianyun didn't leave because he wanted to protect them, so he didn't run away. Escape? That doesn't exist. Tianyun smiled faintly and said, I'll show you that Star Lords are not invincible, especially this kind of crazy Star Lord. In the next second, Tianyun took a step forward, and his body immediately turned into a huge five-colored Emperor Dragon. At the same time, the stars above shone, and the star power of the five directions shrouded him, directly strengthening his strength. Five directions of star power? And it's Grandmaster Xing's cultivation? The Sword Wind Star Lord and the others were stunned. Grandmaster Xing could use star power, were they seeing things? However, it was not over yet. The huge five-colored Emperor Dragon star aspect suddenly opened its mouth in the star domain, and actually devoured half of the Divine Cauldron Star Lord's star power. After devouring the star power of two directions, it immediately increased its star power from 5 directions to 7 directions. At the same time, the Divine Cauldron Star Lord's strength was immediately weakened. Chapter 1920. A large portion of the Divine Cauldron Star Lord's star power was immediately devoured, which was equivalent to weakening the Divine Cauldron Star Lord's strength by half. Not only was it weakened, but it could also increase one's own strength. This was the most terrifying ability. This was the first time they had seen such an ability, and everyone was dumbfounded. Even the Heavenly Terminus Star Lord was shocked by this scene. They had never seen such a heaven-defying ability. At most, it could suppress the other party's star power, but it was definitely the first time they had seen it devour the other party's star power. How is this possible? When the Divine Cauldron Star Lord felt his power sharply decrease, he was shocked. He had never expected such a situation to occur. The power of the Divine Cauldron Star Lord immediately weakened a lot. But even if it was weakened a lot, it was still the power of a Star Lord, and it was still extremely powerful. Even if it's weakened, it will still crush you to death. The Divine Cauldron Star Lord quickly recovered from his shock, and slapped down again, without the slightest sign of weakening. If you're weakened, you'll become worthless. After Tianyun transformed into the original body of the five-colored Emperor Dragon, he pressed down heavily. The huge dragon claw carried the star power of the 7 directions, and it also carried a crazy damage mode. His power reached a new peak. In particular, the star power of the 7 directions was no longer an ordinary superposition, but a superposition effect of 15 times in one go. From hexagonal star power onwards, there was a superposition effect of 3 times. Coupled with the crazy damage mode, it was a superposition of 27 times, which was absolutely unparalleled combat power. Especially with the power of the 5-colored Emperor Dragon, it immediately surpassed the power of the Divine Cauldron. Especially since the Divine Cauldron Star-Lord had been injured, the power he released was naturally not as strong as before. If he was at his peak state before, Tianyun would still be a little cautious, but unfortunately, he had already been exhausted by the heavenly terminus Star-Lord, so the effect was completely different. Boom! The huge Divine Cauldron was slapped away by his claw, and then the huge dragon claw continued to press down. The Divine Cauldron was slapped away, and even his own Star Dharma form was sent flying. What was left of the Divine Cauldron Star-Lord? Impossible. The Divine Cauldron Star-Lord looked at the dragon claw pressing down on him, and his heart was filled with horror. Tianyun's cultivation was only that of a Star Master. How could he erupt with such terrifying power? How could he master star power? Before he could figure it out, Star-Lord Divine Cauldron was killed by his palm. A Star Venerate who controlled the Divine Cauldron ancestral land, was slapped to death just like that. Before he died, he couldn't understand how Tianyun could control such a powerful force. It was completely beyond their expectations. Not to mention him, the others who were still alive still had not figured out what was going on. Ding! Successfully killed the Divine Cauldron Star-Lord. Obtained 12 million star energy points. Obtained Divine Cauldron Star, Level 5 Celestial Aspect. He did not drop any equipment, nor did he drop any special treasures. He simply dropped 2 big items. But that was enough. The shocking star energy points made his eyes light up. He was indeed worthy of being a big fat sheep. As for treasures, he could just plunder them from the Divine Cauldron Star-Lord storage ring. These Star-Lords all had special storage rings that belonged to the very high-grade type. They could store too many things inside. Not bad, the harvest is quite rich. Tianyun quickly returned to his original body, holding the Divine Cauldron Star-Lord's storage ring in his hand. There were many treasures and martial arts inside the Divine Cauldron. It could easily control the treasures of a force, which was quite impressive. When this scene fell into the eyes of the others, they were completely stunned. If they were shocked by the fact that Tianyun had devoured star power before, then now that the Divine Cauldron Star-Lord was killed, they were completely dumbfounded. This was a Star Monarch, not a Great Master Xing. Even if it was an injured Star-Lord, it was still a Star-Lord. The power released was far from what Star Master Xing could compare with. Han Long's performance was the best proof. From the moment the attack started, he felt that he had been suppressed, and he did not even have the strength to resist. He could only choose to escape, but Tianyun did not leave, so how could he escape? Now, the legendary Star-Lord, who was difficult to resist, had been killed by Tianyun with a single slap. There was no too fancy of a battle, just a slap to death. He was not like the Celestial Pole Star-Lord, who constantly attacked each other, and in the end, no one could do anything to the other. Now, he had been killed by a slap from Tianyun. The difference between the two was obvious. Of course, all of this was because the Divine Cauldron Star-Lord had been too careless, allowing Tianyun to easily take him down. The Star-Lord was killed. Qin Shui was stunned. She thought that he was dead for sure. No matter how heaven-defying Tianyun was, it was impossible for him to fight against the Star-Lord. Now it seemed that she was wrong. Tianyun was still completely crushing his opponent with an invincible momentum. Yes, even the Star-Lord was killed. His Excellency is invincible. Han Long's eyes were filled with horror. He had seen Tianyun fight against the Guardians before, but the Guardians were Star-Lords, not Star-Lords. Those guardian gods were on a completely different level from the divine cauldron Star-Lord, who knew that under such circumstances, Tianyun could still crush the other party, which was extremely terrifying. "Don't you want to kill me? You can come over now." Tianyun's gaze shifted to the celestial pole Star-Lord. Now that the celestial pole Star-Lord had snatched the golden divine grass, no one snatched it from him since the celestial pole Star-Lord revealed that his backer was the jade god ancestral land. The celestial pole Star-Lord's heart trembled. This was simply a freak. The other Star-Lords looked at each other. They would not intervene and could only watch from the side. Anyway, they had no enmity with Tianyun, and Tianyun did not have the golden divine grass. Therefore, they would not make a move and could only watch from the side. If Tianyun really killed the celestial pole Star-Lord, they might make a move. After all, this way, the golden divine grass would be equivalent to an ownerless object, so they could naturally snatch it at will. "Do you really think I'm an idiot like the divine cauldron Star-Lord?" the celestial pole Star-Lord said coldly. The divine cauldron Star-Lord was too careless. With him as an example, how could I lose to you? Today, I will use you as a blood sacrifice to let the world know that I, the celestial pole Star-Lord, cannot be provoked. The battle wheel above the celestial pole Star-Lord's head was released again, releasing rings of battle intent. The power that erupted was indeed far from what the divine cauldron Star-Lord could compare with. The celestial pole Star-Lord was originally stronger than the divine cauldron Star-Lord. Otherwise, why would the jade god ancestral land choose him to serve? When he released all his power, the celestial pole Star-Lord laughed at himself. He did not expect that he would have to use all his power in the face of a Grandmaster Xing. No one would believe it. Outsiders who did not know the real situation would only feel that the celestial pole Star-Lord was too weak to use all his power to deal with a Grandmaster Xing. Chapter 1921. The celestial terminus Star-Lord unleashed his full strength, treating Tianyun as a powerful Star-Lord. Therefore, the power he unleashed far exceeded the divine cauldron Star-Lord's previous power. In addition, the celestial terminus Star-Lord was already very strong, not something the divine cauldron Star-Lord could compare to. Qing Shui and the others trembled. This time, the celestial terminus Star-Lord was not in the same situation as the divine cauldron Star-Lord. He was going to unleash his full strength. Previously, the divine cauldron Star-Lord was careless, but this time, the situation was completely different. "My lord," Qing Shui looked at Tianyun with worry in her eyes. The other Star-Lords looked at the situation, wanting to see what the final result would be. Would Tianyun win, or would the celestial terminus Star-Lord win? "This brat is doomed. If he could hide for a while and come out, he would definitely be invincible. Taking advantage of the divine cauldron Star-Lord's carelessness to kill him, he is too arrogant. Yes, if he could hide for a while, he could really become a demonic genius. He is already so strong now. What if he breaks through to the Star Venerate level? At that time, most of the Star-Lords would not be able to compete with him. Unfortunately, everything ends here. We can only watch the golden divine grass. We came in vain." The Star-Lords shook their heads, feeling that everything was so unfortunate. Not only would it be a pity that they could not obtain the golden divine grass, but it would also be a pity that such a genius would die. If he became a disciple of their faction would really have another super genius. This was a unique stellar Dharma phase, an existence that could control stellar power before reaching the Star Venerate level. It was definitely 1 in a trillion. At least, they had never seen it before. Now that he was about to be killed, they could not help but sigh. If the celestial terminus Star-Lord was not backed by the Jade God ancestral land, they would really want to save Tianyun. Unfortunately, they were facing the Jade God ancestral land, an existence that they could not provoke. If they provoked it, it would not be worthwhile to destroy their own ancestral land for a genius. Come on, devour my stellar power. The celestial terminus Star-Lord stared at Eteonyun. At the same time, he was very worried that his stellar power would be devoured. Devour your stellar power? There's no need. Eteonyun looked up at Empyrean terminus Star-Lord and said casually, I don't need to absorb your astral power to deal with you. It will only dirty my hands. How arrogant! Since that's the case, then go to hell. Celestial Lord Celestial Terminus sneered and pressed down from the void. Boundless power stacked on top of each other as the invincible war wheel attacked once again. This was an existence that could knock back 2-star venerates. Now that it suppressed him, how could Eteonyun resist? Lord, quickly devour their astral powers. Qing Shui and the others were anxious. Devouring their astral powers would greatly weaken their opponent's strength. If he didn't devour it, the other party would definitely go all out. At that time, it would definitely not be easy to deal with. The gap between their cultivation bases was already there, let alone going all out. Eteonyun's eyes flashed and he smiled. The energy in his body circulated crazily. Breakthrough. Ding. Congratulations to player Eteonyun for successfully breaking through to Star Venerate. After deducting a large amount of star energy, he successfully broke through to the Star Venerate level. Among all the Star Venerates, this was an insurmountable peak. Now, he easily surpassed it and charged into the Star Venerate level. When he broke through to the Star Venerate level, a surge of energy soared into the sky. In the star region above the 9 heavens, a 5-colored Emperor Dragon soared and roared. Dragon might suppress the world. The energy in Eteonyun's body continued to rise. The 5-colored Emperor Dragon in his body also expanded, and its strength increased significantly. He broke through to the Star Venerate level? They were all stunned. When they felt this familiar aura, they immediately knew that Eteonyun had broken through to the Star Venerate level. He broke through at the drop of a hat without any warning. Qing Shui and the others, who were behind Eteonyun, felt it the most intensely. The previously unrivaled Star Venerate level energy was now attacking them. However, this time, the Star Venerate level energy did not belong to anyone but Eteonyun himself. The celestial terminus Star-Lord's eyes narrowed, but his attack did not weaken. Instead, it seemed to be strengthened. He did not know how Eteonyun did it, but he knew that he had to finish off Eteonyun quickly. He was already so heaven-defying without breaking through to the Star Venerate level. If he really broke through to the Star Venerate level, the celestial terminus Star-Lord would not be able to contend against him. Therefore, he wanted to take advantage of the time when Eteonyun had not completely consolidated his cultivation to launch the strongest attack. However, his wishful thinking was all wrong. Today, I am a Star Venerate. Eteonyun's figure rushed out of the divine light. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at the void. The seemingly small hand tore the void and tore a starry sky, star power from the 8 directions. When he broke through to the Star Venerate level, he could actually control the star power from the 5 directions to the 8 directions. Superimposing the star power from the 8 directions on the original Star Venerate level was absolutely explosive. He did not even need to transform into the 5-colored Emperor Dragon. With his own strength, he could tear the sky apart with one hand. He did not need any weapons. He only relied on his hand to grab the falling battle wheel in the void. He held it firmly, so that the celestial terminus Star-Lord could not suppress it at all. This is your strength? Eteonyun smiled disdainfully. I gave you so much time to prepare, and this is all you can show me? You are too weak. Get down. He stretched out his hand and crushed the battle wheel in the void. At the same time, he slapped the celestial terminus Star-Lord into the ground. With a series of bombardments, a huge pit appeared in the ground. The celestial terminus Star-Lord collapsed on the ground, unable to move. There was not a single part of his body that was unharmed. His internal organs were all shattered. He was not dead, but his injuries were extremely serious. The celestial terminus Star Lord had already suffered serious injuries when he fought with the divine cauldron Star Lord and the others. Now that he was hit by Yi Tianyun's palm, he was half crippled. Yi Tianyun quickly landed beside the celestial terminus Star Lord and quickly made a few hand seals on the celestial terminus Star Lord's body. Soon, he used a tyrannical power to forcibly seal the celestial terminus Star Lord's power. Then, he dragged the celestial terminus Star Lord up and looked at him with a smile. "Didn't you say you wanted to kill me? Why can't you kill me now?" The celestial terminus Star Lord's face turned ashen. He did not expect that he would end up in the hands of Yi Tianyun. This was a great humiliation. "Do you think that you can really control the celestial terminus ancestral land by killing me? I am from the ancestral land of the Jade God. If you kill me, the ancestral land of the Jade God will definitely send people to kill you." Not only did the celestial terminus Star Lord not beg for mercy, but he also started to threaten. "Why do you think I kept you alive? It was because I wanted to ask about the ancestral land of the Jade God." Yi Tianyun sneered. "Otherwise, do you think you could have lived until now?" Then, he turned his head and looked at the celestial lords beside him. His eyes were cold. "If any of you want to continue fighting, come forward." Chapter 1922. Yi Tianyun became more violent after breaking through to the Star Lord realm. The other Star Lords had to consider whether they were qualified to compete with Yi Tianyun or not. Besides, it was not necessary. Yi Tianyun had already suppressed the celestial pole Star-Lord. He would be hunted down by the ancestral land of the Jade God. It was impossible for him to escape. The ancestral land of the Jade God would investigate this matter. After all, the celestial pole Star-Lord was a member of the ancestral land of the Jade God. If Yi Tianyun killed the celestial pole Star-Lord, he would be hunted down. But if he didn't kill the celestial pole Star-Lord, he would be hunted down by the ancestral land of the Jade God. It seems we don't have any hope of getting the golden divine herb. Even if we snatch it, the ancestral land of the Jade God will take it back. Let's go. We might as well go to the Five Elements Mountain to explore. Maybe we can find something better. The Star Lords chose to leave one by one. They didn't intend to snatch the golden divine herb anymore. For them, this was already hopeless. Han Long and the others looked at this side in a daze. Not only did he kill the divine cauldron Star-Lord, but he also suppressed the celestial pole Star-Lord easily. Especially when he broke through to the Star-Lord realm. Wasn't it said that it was extremely difficult to break through to the Star-Lord realm? Why did Yi Tianyun break through so easily? It was like drinking water. This really surprised them, but they were even more pleasantly surprised. They had thought that Yi Tianyun would lose, but now he had won. However, after the pleasant surprise, they became very worried. No matter whether they killed the celestial pole Star-Lord or not, they had become enemies with the ancestral land of the Jade God. This matter would not be easy to solve. The ancestral land of the Jade God was very famous. Any force would feel terrified when they heard it. They would not dare to resist. The ancestral land of the Jade God was a 3-star lord, and it was not as simple as they thought. It was said that the ancestral land of the Jade God had a grade 6-star Dharma aspect. Although it was not as special as the unique star Dharma aspect, a grade 6-star Dharma aspect was still invincible. The unique star Dharma aspect of the past generations was not absolutely invincible. It was usually the level 6-star Dharma aspect that was invincible in the world. Now it's time to settle the score. Those slave marks in the Empyrean Pole ancestral land were all arranged by Yushin ancestor, right? Yi Tianyun did not kill him because he thought of this. Originally, the two had nothing to do with each other, but when the celestial terminus lord said that he was working for the Jade God ancestral land, he thought of the Jade God ancestral land. It was very likely that the slave imprints of the Empyrean terminus ancestral land were set up by the Jade God ancestral land. It seems you're not stupid. The slave imprints of the Celestial Pole ancestral land were indeed set up by the Jade God ancestral land, Celestial Pole Star Lord sneered. So, are you afraid now? He even controlled the Celestial Pole ancestral land and removed the slave imprint. He was truly capable. I believe this matter will soon reach the ears of the ancestral land of Jade Divinity. You won't even know how you died then. Etienne's eyes turned cold. He grabbed Heavenly Terminus Star Lord's neck and lifted him up, exerting pressure on Heavenly Terminus Star Lord. Since Heavenly Terminus Star Lord's power was sealed, he was no different from an ordinary person. When the power pressed down, Heavenly Terminus Star Lord's face turned red, as if he was suffocating to death. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Etienne sneered. I thought you were the one who arranged the slave imprint. As long as I killed you, the slave imprints would disappear. It seems that the real culprit is the Jade God ancestral land. The Jade God ancestral land really hid it well. There is no news about it outside. Do you think you're a righteous person? Ha ha. It's useless to kill me if you want to remove all the imprints of the Celestial Pole ancestral land. If you're so capable, go and destroy the Jade God ancestral land. Heavenly Terminus Star Lord laughed in a hoarse voice, not caring about his own life at all. If you really go, I believe it won't take long for you to be completely suppressed. You trash. Of course, Heavenly Terminus Star Lord was not afraid of death. As a superior, his dignity was always more important than his own life. All right, you can die now. Etienne stretched out his hand and squeezed. His power poured into Heavenly Terminus Star Lord's body, causing his body to explode. A bona fide Star Venerate died just like that. Heavenly Terminus Star Lord's death meant that the Celestial Pole ancestral land had lost its ruler, and he had become the real ruler. However, it was not over yet. If he wanted to truly liberate the Celestial Pole ancestral land without any future troubles, he had to eradicate the Jade God ancestral land. The spearhead suddenly shifted from Heavenly Terminus Star Lord to the Jade God ancestral land, a force that many forces did not dare to provoke. In this area, the Jade God ancestral land was the big boss. Who could resist it? Your Excellency, I'm afraid we're going to provoke the Jade God ancestral land. Han Long flew over with Qing Shui and landed next to Etienne. He looked worried. So be it. Since the Jade God ancestral land is the real culprit, we'll just destroy it. Etienne flicked his fingers and said calmly, Let's go and explore the 5 Elements Mountain. There is something I want in there. Yes, Your Excellency. Han Long didn't say much. Besides worry, there was more excitement in his eyes. He was also a hot-blooded man, and he was not a coward. In a sense, he had already died once. Since he was a member of the team of extermination, he had lost his freedom and couldn't control himself. He was basically dead. Now he was rescued by Etienne. If it were not for Etienne, he would not have come back to life. Although the Jade God ancestral land was terrible, he would still follow Etienne to kill them. At the thought that the Jade God ancestral land had caused this situation, he was even angrier. Then they continued to take the carriage to the 5 Elements Mountain. Qing Shui had a complicated look on her face. She thought Etienne was strong, but he seemed so small in front of the Jade God ancestral land. The Jade God ancestral land was a huge force. It had 3 Stars Lords, but it also had many strong people. There were hundreds of Star Masters alone. As for Star Masters, there were as many as dogs. Especially the Star Venerables. If they took out a Star Venerable's treasure and released it, it would be equivalent to having the support of a Star Venerable. At that time, would Etienne still be able to deal with them? News of what happened here quickly spread outside and exploded among the various forces. They were all shocked by the news, especially when they learned that the Celestial Terminus ancestral land had an affair with the Jade God ancestral land, they knew that Yi Tianyun was doomed. Qingyue and the others, who had wanted to establish a good relationship with Yi Tianyun through Qing Shui, turned pale when they heard the news. Among them, the elder level immediately threw out a sentence, informing all the clansmen that they can never have anything to do with Yi Tianyun. Qingxue is no longer a member of the clan. What she does outside has nothing to do with the clan. Chapter 1923. Currently, there are no forces that have a relationship with Yi Tianyun. Originally, there were some forces that wanted to make friends with Yi Tianyun. When they heard the news, they hurried to change their plans. Qing Shui's side was the most miserable. She had wanted to win her over unconditionally and build a good relationship with Yi Tianyun. After all, someone who could kill two-star venerates was an extremely heaven-defying existence. But when they heard about the ancestral land of the Jade God, they changed their expressions. It was undeniable that Yi Tianyun was strong. If he could kill two-star lords, how could he not be strong? But no matter how strong he was still powerless in front of the ancestral land of the Jade God. They were all Star Lords, but the Star Lords in the ancestral land of the Jade God were more dreadful. They could be called Star Lords. That was the inheritance of a Star Lord. Those Star Lords must have obtained the corresponding inheritance. The Star Lords in the ancestral land of the Jade God could rival those in the middle stage in the early stage. As for those in the late stage, they were even more dreadful. Under such circumstances, everyone believed that Yi Tianyun would definitely lose. Not even the unique Star Dharma idol. In their opinion, unless Yi Tianyun hides and cultivates for 10,000 years, there is still a little chance for him to come out. But it was just a chance. After all, the ancestral land of the Jade God had the inheritance of a Star Lord. The strength of a Star Lord was the main reason. It was said that a Star Lord was so strong that no force could rival a Star Lord. An attack from a Star Lord was enough to destroy half of the ancestral land. More importantly, a Star Lord could make laws with his words. He could decide life and death with a glance, and he could even set rules. The slave mark of the Celestial Pole ancestral land had a similar effect. If he wanted to break it, he would have to break the law of nature. However, Yi Tianyun's five-color Emperor Dragon had a strong law of nature. That was why he could break the slave mark easily. Yi Tianyun and the others in the depths of the Five Elements Mountain didn't know what was going on outside. Qing Shui didn't know she had been abandoned. She couldn't go back even if she wanted to. If they appeared, they would be captured by their own families and sent to the ancestral land of the Jade God for punishment. That was why the Jade God ancestral land was so famous. It was so powerful that it made all the other powers tremble. Anyone who provoked the Jade God ancestral land would have to pay any price. Even if the Patriarch injured someone from the Jade God ancestral land, he would be tied up and sent to the Jade God ancestral land. If they didn't do this, they would suffer the calamity of extermination. The carriage was still moving slowly in the Five Elements Mountain. Everything was going smoothly. Qing Shui didn't know what Yi Tianyun was looking for. Wasn't it enough to get the golden divine grass? The golden divine herb could increase one's chances of breaking through to the Star Venerable realm. If it had been other practitioners, they would have left long ago instead of staying in this extremely dangerous area. But she didn't ask. She didn't know why Yi Tianyun continued to go in. She didn't dare to ask questions like before. She couldn't even breathe when she was facing a Star Lord, let alone ask questions casually. Great. It's just ahead, Yi Tianyun suddenly said. Qing Shui was startled. What's ahead? Qing Shui turned her head hurriedly, but she didn't see anything. She could only see white fog and nothing else. It's an opportunity for you, Yi Tianyun said with a faint smile. I told you. I said it's an opportunity for you, so it's an opportunity for you. Under Han Long's control, the carriage quickly broke through the fog and arrived inside. As soon as they broke through the fog and entered, they heard people talking inside. It seemed there were many people there. At this moment, Qingxue saw that there were many Star Masters here, and there were also many Star Masters. There were at least dozens of Star Masters. As for Star Masters, there weren't many. They were all geniuses of some families. There was a divine tree in the area surrounded by them. There were 3 spiritual fruits on the tree. They were glowing with a faint blue luster. They were about to ripen. Their arrival attracted a few gazes, but that was all. They didn't know what was happening outside. Communication was sealed here, so they didn't know that Yi Tianyun had killed 2 Star Venerate. If they knew, they wouldn't be so calm. Another group of people came from who knows where. They even dare to ride carriages in. I wonder if they are bold or just idiots. A Star Master snorted coldly but ignored them. Their gazes focused on the divine tree in front, waiting for the spiritual fruits to ripen. This is a rare water spirit fruit. If consumed, it will improve one's physique significantly. It is especially effective for water-attributed physiques. When Qingxue saw this fruit, she covered her mouth in shock. Her eyes filled with envy. It's Elder Qingxue, Senior Sister Qingmeng, and Senior Brother Qingdan. She saw familiar people here. Senior Sister Qingmeng and Senior Brother Qingdan had pretty good talent. Hence, they were brought here to snatch the water spirit fruit. After consuming it, they would definitely improve their strength significantly. As for her, she didn't have the qualifications. She didn't even have the qualifications to come here. Now that she could come and take a look, it was already pretty good. However, for so many Star Masters, 3 water spirit fruits was a situation where there were too many monks and not enough gruel. It was very troublesome to snatch them. If I can get 1 water spirit fruit, I will definitely improve a lot. Qingxue had a look of envy and her eyes were filled with desire. The opportunity I'm talking about is for you to go and get 1 water spirit fruit. Of course, if you want 2 water spirit fruits, you are also allowed to take them. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly. What? Qingxue was dumbfounded. She thought that Yi Tianyun was here to snatch the water spirit fruit. She didn't expect him to bring her here to snatch the water spirit fruit. After the shock, she pointed to herself and said, "My lord, you are saying that the water spirit fruit is for me?" "That's right. You can go and get the water spirit fruit yourself. I can block the rest of the cultivators for you. However, you have to get the water spirit fruit yourself. This is a little difficult for you. However, if you can't even pass this level of difficulty, it will be detrimental to your future cultivation." Yi Tianyun smiled faintly and said. The surface of the divine tree in front of them was rippling with the power of water. If they were to go near it, they would definitely be attacked. It was very likely that they would be sent flying. However, with a little effort, it would not be a problem. The opportunity that Yi Tianyun was talking about did not mean that he would help in the whole process. He was only helping to block those Star Masters. Whether or not he could get the water spirit fruit was another matter. I can do it. Qingxue nodded her head heavily. Her eyes were filled with determination. It was not easy to fight for an opportunity. Even if she had to risk her life, she would get the water spirit fruit. And, as long as you have this confidence, Yi Tianyun smiled faintly and shifted his gaze to the front. Your clan's elder has noticed this side. It seems that he has recognized you. Chapter 1924. Junior Sister Qingxue, why are you here? After Qingmeng and the others came over, they looked at Qingxue in confusion. The 5 Elements Mountain was not open. How could Qingxue come in? But thinking about it carefully, it was almost time to open. It was not surprising that she would open the door early. If the door was not open, there was only one possibility for her to come in at this time. She was brought in by an expert. That was, Master Xing brought her in. But when they looked ahead, they saw an old man and a young man. The old man looked very inconspicuous. They guessed that his cultivation was average, at most at the level of a Star Master. As for the young man, it was impossible for him to be a Master Xing. How could he be a Master Xing at such a young age? Therefore, they were immediately classified as ordinary people. But they did not know why they happened to come in with Qing Shui. Elder Qing Shuiyu, Senior Sister Qing Meng, Senior Brother Qing Dan. I came in with the Lord. Qing Shui did not hide anything from them. She was full of respect for her senior brothers and sisters, so she would not lie. The Lord? They looked at Yi Tianyun up and down in surprise. He did not look like an adult. They would believe it if he said he was a big man. The Lord was a respectful title for a superior. Did this young man deserve to be called that? But when they looked at Han Long, it was very likely that he was called Han Long. He looked like a bad old man. Maybe he really had some skills. Nonsense. Do you think you can come in so casually? Get out quickly. Even if someone brought you in, you can't come in casually. It is very dangerous here. When the water's spiritual fruit ripens, it will be very chaotic. Not everyone can take care of you. Elder Qing Shuiyu shouted and asked Qing Shui to leave quickly. He glanced at Han Long and vaguely felt a power at the level of a Master Xing. Then he immediately knew that Han Long was a kindred spirit. His cultivation was probably at the level of a Master Xing. Although Qing Meng and the others could not see it, it did not mean that Elder Qing Shuiyu could not see it. As an elder, he was very dissatisfied with Qing Shui coming in with others. Especially when he was an outsider, he was filled with hostility. As long as he entered, he would be an opponent. Later on, he would definitely be a formidable opponent for the water spirit fruit. Qing Shui glanced at Yi Tianyun. Just as she was about to say something, Yi Tianyun interrupted. I will protect her. You don't have to worry about that. Just take good care of your disciple. Yi Tianyun's expression was indifferent. He didn't have a good impression of this family, but he didn't have a bad impression either. In any case, he was here to give Qing Shui some good fortune. He couldn't be bothered with anything else. You sure talk big at such a young age. Elder Qing Shuiyu snorted coldly and said, I don't know which force you are from, but you brought our clan's disciples in at will. What are your intentions? Could it be that you are a playboy and have taken a fancy to our Qing Shui? If you have taken a fancy to our Qing Shui, then don't use this little trick. If you are not strong enough, you will kill people. As he spoke, he looked around. There were dozens of Xing masters here. Even if Han Long next to him was a Xing master, he could only be one of them, not the only one. Elder Qing Shuiyu, it's not like that. You can't say bad things about His Excellency. He has done me a favor, and I can't afford to associate with him. Qing Shui was so scared that her face turned pale. She didn't expect her elder to say that. After all, the person in front of her was a Star Lord. He was a Star Lord, not a Xing master. Even if there were hundreds of Xing masters, they could only stand aside, let alone dozens of Xing masters. Now that he said that, she was even more scared. What if Yi Tianyun was displeased and flattened her family? Little junior sister Qing Shui, you can't say that. Your talent is not bad. Even if you marry into a big family or even an ancestral land, you can marry into a good family. How can you belittle yourself like this? Senior sister Qing Meng looked Yi Tianyun up and down, frowned, and said, Young master, which force are you from? Are you here to gain experience? Or do you have some other purpose? Qing Meng didn't have a good impression of Yi Tianyun. She always felt that he was here to abduct her junior sister. Yi Tianyun pointed forward and said indifferently, I'm here to give her a chance. Let her take one water spirit fruit or all of them. It's up to her. What a big tone. Senior Qing Dan, who was at the side, couldn't stand it anymore. They were about the same age, but he had such an arrogant tone. This made him very unhappy. How many Grandmasters Xing are there here? Even if you brought a strong helper, you can't talk big, right? It's fine if you want to die, but don't drag our junior sister down with you, okay? They were rather concerned about Qing Shui, mainly because they saw an outsider. Naturally, they were united against that outsider. Normally, they were only considered average. Their gazes were cold, and they felt some disgust for Yi Tianyun. They hated people who exaggerated things, and they hated people who boasted even more. They felt that Yi Tianyun was just boasting, using flowery words to attract their junior sister. No, milord didn't harm me. He really wanted to bring me here to take the water spirit fruit. Qing Shui quickly stood up and explained, Elder, senior brother, senior sister, milord definitely wouldn't harm me. He is very strong, and he can bring me to take the water spirit fruit. How strong? Could he be a star venerate? Here, unless he is a star venerate, there is no guarantee. Qing Meng said coldly, Junior sister, wake up. I know you are kind-hearted, but you can't trust people so easily. You guessed right. I am a star venerate. Yi Tianyun said calmly, that's enough to protect your junior sister, and you are strong enough to take the water spirit fruit, right? If you are a star venerate, I am a star venerate. Senior brother Qing Dan sneered and snorted disdainfully. To be honest, if it weren't for Qing Shui, what you said would have been enough for you to die several times, Yi Tianyun said calmly. You are really arrogant. Brat, believe it or not, I'll slap you. Senior brother Qing Dan was angry. He didn't believe that his opponent could be stronger than him. Qing Shui was so scared that she quickly stepped forward to stop him. She said, Senior brother Qing Dan, don't talk nonsense. He really is a star venerate. Qing Shui, you are really… Elder Qing Shui shook his head. He thought she was too gullible. How could someone so young be a star venerate? When they were about to continue talking, the tree in front of them started to turn dark blue. The water spirit fruit was about to ripen. The water spirit fruit is about to ripen. Let's go and prepare it. Elder Qing Shui looked at Qing Shui meaningfully. Take care of yourself. Qing Meng also looked in this direction. She clenched her teeth and said, Junior sister, leave this place quickly. Don't trust others too much. Humph. Qing Dan snorted coldly and followed up without saying anything. They still had important things to prepare. Sir, please don't blame them. They are really doing this for my sake. Qing Shui was so scared that she knelt down immediately. Just this once. Don't do it again. Yi Tianyun looked calm and didn't blame them. If they offended him again, they would be smashed into a pile of meat paste. Chapter 1925. Thank you, my lord. Qing Shui stood up, trembling. She knew that Yi Tianyun was very easy to talk to, but some things were not so considerate. Speaking like this in front of a Star Lord, one would not even know how to die. Yi Tianyun looked up at the water spirit fruit in front of him and maintained his smile. How many water spirit fruits do you want? 1, 2, or 3? It's up to you. One is good, one is good. Qing Shui's eyes lit up. She did not dare to be too greedy. One was enough. No matter what, she did not even dare to think about the water spirit fruit before. It was an extremely rare fruit. Especially when she saw so many star masters here, it was easy to imagine how difficult it would be to snatch it. If not for the fact that Yi Tianyun was a Star Lord, she really did not believe that Yi Tianyun could help her obtain the water spirit fruit. Good. Get ready later. I will protect you. No one will be able to get close to you. The rest is up to you. If you can't get it, it's your own problem. Yi Tianyun's expression was indifferent. Qing Shui nodded heavily. No matter what, she had to get this water spirit fruit with all her might. While they were preparing, Qing Meng and the others frowned at the side, feeling displeased. Little junior sister is still not leaving. It seems that she has really been bewitched by that brat. Qing Meng shook her head. Forget it. Don't bother about her. This is her own choice. When the time comes, it's her own problem. Elder Qing Shui said indifferently, with a star master by his side, that brat is definitely not from an ordinary family. He should also be here to train. But what's the use in a situation where there are so many star masters? Elder Qing Shuiyu revealed a disdainful smile. They had 2 star masters on their side. The other elder had been guarding in front, maintaining a good position, waiting for the opportunity to snatch it. Compared to Yi Tianyun's side, they were more confident. Their goal was to snatch 1 water spirit fruit. As for 2 water spirit fruits, the difficulty was simply too high. It's about to ripen. Get ready to snatch it. Elder Qing Shuiyu's face darkened. A long sword immediately appeared in his hand. He was ready to rush over and snatch the water spiritual fruit. As for the 2 of them, they could only watch from the back, waiting for the elders to snatch the water spirit fruit. In their hearts, they naturally hoped to be able to snatch 2 water spirit fruit. If they could only snatch one, they could only split it in half. The water spirit fruit was so precious, if only one of them ate it, the other would really be helpless. Both of them were outstanding geniuses of the clan, so it was naturally impossible for them to give up on either one. When they were about to start, they looked at Yi Tianyun. They discovered that Yi Tianyun had taken out a wine table and was drinking wine by the side. Qing Shui was respectfully pouring wine for him at the side, causing them to be stunned. "Aren't you courting death by drinking here?" Qing Meng and the others shook their heads. This kind of action didn't have the slightest hint of preparation. At the same time, it seemed more like a provocation to all the grandmasters. All of them were preparing, but you were serving wine by the side. Isn't this provocation? Therefore, the other grandmasters all looked over unhappily, but they didn't have time to pay attention to them. After all, their hearts were focused on the water spirit fruit, and they didn't have extra energy to spare on others. Soon, the water spirit fruit finally ripened. A dark blue light immediately radiated and spread to the surroundings. It's ripened. At this moment, the numerous grandmasters all rushed towards the sacred tree, one faster than the other. All of them used their star dharma forms, and for a moment, the power of the grandmasters enveloped the area. When they rushed towards the sacred tree immediately emitted a strong shield, blocking them outside. This was the water spirit fruit's last means of protection. After a while, the water spirit fruit would completely transform and be able to escape by itself. At this stage, any spiritual fruit would have its own spirituality, so it would be afraid and choose to escape. Therefore, as long as they didn't rush up quickly, the water spirit fruit would definitely escape. At that time, they wouldn't even be able to find the skin, let alone the water spirit fruit. "Open for me!" Elder Qing Shuiyu and the other 2 great elders roared and madly attacked the shield, causing it to cave in. The 2 great elders broke it at the same time, and their cooperation was flawless. Based on this situation, there was indeed a good chance that they could break the shield and enter. If one looked carefully, there were no grandmasters of the ancestral lands present. The water spirit fruit was precious, but for the ancestral lands, it wasn't that precious. They had better things to offer their disciples. Therefore, the people present were actually elders of some clans, not elders of the ancestral lands. If the ancestral lands came to snatch it, they basically had no chance. The ancestral lands all had dozens or even hundreds of grandmasters of the ancestral lands. If they casually sent a group over, how could they survive? While they were frantically snatching the water spirit fruit, Yi Tianyun's side was still motionless, as if he was really watching from the side. He said he would let little junior sister get the water spirit fruit, and now he's still drinking on the side. What a liar! When Qing Meng saw this, her anger surged again. Now that the snatching had begun, and Yi Tianyun's side still hadn't made a move, she was naturally unhappy. This kid is a playboy, a liar through and through. When this is over, I'll definitely teach him a lesson and let him know what it means to keep a low profile. Qing Dan snorted coldly. He thought that Yi Tianyun was definitely a disciple of a small clan. He was already so arrogant with a grandmaster of the ancestral lands helping him. If there was another grandmaster, wouldn't he fly into the sky? Yi Tianyun, who was drinking, glanced over and slapped the void. Noisy. Slap. Qing Dan felt that his face had been slapped hard, and his whole body was sent flying. His entire face had been slapped like a pig's head, and there was no longer any trace of his previous handsome expression. If you talk too much, next time, it won't be as simple as just slapping you. Yi Tianyun slowly got up. Under the other party's shocked and angry gaze, he slapped the void in front of him, and the space shook. Following that, a ray of light blasted out, directly splitting a huge ravine in the ground, forcibly plowing a path, and at the same time, it hit the tree of God in front of him. With a dong sound, the tree of God shook a little, and the shield outside instantly disappeared. What was left were 3 bare water spirit fruit. Immediately after, 2 water spirit fruits were forcefully pulled down from the tree of God, and only 1 was left on the tree of God. At the same time, it was still sealed there, unable to escape. The 2 water spirit fruits that were pulled down from the tree of God flew away, and finally landed in Yi Tianyun's hands. Go, there's only 1 water spirit fruit left. If you can pluck it, it'll be your own ability. Yi Tianyun gestured. Chapter 1926. The shield protecting the water spirit fruit was very strong, but no matter how strong it was, it could not resist the power of a Star Lord. The power of a Star Lord could steal the sky and change the sun. It was not a problem to forcefully suppress a mere divine tree. Especially when compared to the golden divine grass, it was much weaker. The two were not on the same level. With just a single move, he had broken through the barrier, and he had even specially carved out a path for Qingxue so that she could retrieve it herself. The shield was gone, but there was still some energy surrounding the surface of the water spirit fruit. If she wanted to pick it, she would have to spend some effort. If she broke the shield and entered, it would take a long time, and it would be very difficult. Even Grandmaster Xing could not break it easily. He needed some time, not to mention Qing Shui, who was in the middle stage of Star Master. Yes. Qing Shui's heart tightened. She did not expect Yi Tianyun to be so overbearing. He snatched away 2 of the 3 water spirit fruits, leaving only 1 in front. This meant that the rest of Grandmaster Xing's trip was in vain. They were just here to take a look. At the same time, she was deeply shocked. This was the power of a Star Lord. It was above everything. The thing that Grandmaster Xing and the rest tried their best to break was broken in the blink of an eye. It was like drinking water. Star Lord? How could they not be familiar with this energy? This horrifying power was not something they could compare with. It made their hearts tremble. They were all dumbfounded. Rush up to snatch it? If they rushed up, they would not even be able to fill their teeth. Qing Dan and the rest were completely stunned, especially Qing Dan. Originally, he was filled with anger, but now, he was cold from head to toe, completely chilled to the bone. This was an extremely horrifying thing. They had never thought that Yi Tianyun was really a Star Lord. Thinking of what Qing Shui said before, she kept blocking in front of them, hinting them not to be so impulsive. But they still did not believe that Yi Tianyun was a Star Lord. They even said disrespectful words. If it were any other Star Lord, they would have killed him with 1 slap. Why would they stay until now? It's really Lord Tai Bai jinxing. Aye. Qing Dan was about to cry. Wasn't what she said just now courting death? It was one thing to throw away one's life, but it was likely that even one's family would be implicated. Elder Qing Shuiyu and the others turned pale. Elder Qing Shuiyu knew that he had made a mistake just now. He hurriedly flew over, dragged Qing Meng and Qing Dan to the front of Yi Tianyun, and led them to kneel down together. I'm sorry, sir. We didn't mean to offend you. Elder Qing Shuiyu immediately apologized without any hesitation. A star venerate destroying their clans was as easy as drinking water. If they did not immediately apologize, the consequences would be dire. Yi Tianyun was still sitting there, drinking wine and watching the situation in front of him. He didn't care about them at all. He didn't even look at them. They did not get up, nor did they show any dissatisfaction. They just knelt on the ground, not daring to get up. Qing Dan kept kowtowing until his forehead was bleeding, but he didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. He was panic-stricken. How could he care about this? He was completely frightened. He knew that if he didn't do this, he would be the one to die soon. He didn't want to die. He wanted to live well. Seeing them like this, Qing Shui's heart was desolate. This was the difference in strength. When you were strong, others would treat you as a human. Without strength, you were nothing. She wanted to have this kind of strength. Not only could she make everyone submit to her, but she also wanted to live like a human one day. She didn't have any pity for them kneeling on the ground. They were wrong. She had advised them before, but they didn't believe her. Did they only realize that they were blind when they burst out with strength? Go and pick the water spirit fruit for me. Yes, sir. Immediately, Qing Shui straightened up and walked towards the water spirit fruit. All eyes gathered on her again. No one dared to stop her. With a Lord Tai Bai Jinxing protecting her, who dared to stop her? Whoever stopped her would be courting death. Qing Shui walked towards the divine tree step by step. Soon, she reached the water spirit fruit and raised her hand to pick it. Just as she raised her hand, it was blocked by the light. Waves of power kept surging towards her. Her slender hand was immediately eroded by this power, and her body began to freeze. If this were to continue, his entire body would probably be frozen stiff. But she didn't give up. She immediately mobilized all her strength and even took out the starry Dharma form to pick it. No matter what, she had to get this water spirit fruit. Not only could she not let down Yi Tianyun's good intentions, but she also could not let herself down. Whether she could turn the tables depended on her actions. While she was trying hard to pick it, the situation on Yi Tianyun's side was different. One by one, the starry masters came over and bowed deeply. Greetings, Lord Tai Bai Jinxing. Yi Tianyun nodded and nodded to them, but for Elder Qing Shuiyu, he didn't pay attention to them. Although Elder Qing Shuiyu and the others were dissatisfied, they didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction. This was a Lord Tai Bai Jinxing, an existence who could determine life and death. Lord Tai Bai Jinxing, we are short of a water spirit fruit. If possible, we are willing to exchange for it with other resources. Is that okay? One of the starry masters immediately stood up and made a request. They were all starry masters, so they were not dissatisfied at all. Yi Tianyun snatched all the water spirit fruits, but they didn't dare to show any anger. They could only make a request to exchange for resources. Oh, what resources do you have? Tell me. Yi Tianyun was interested. He snatched all the water spirit fruits because he wanted to stay. This water spirit fruit was not bad. It was not too much to keep it with him. As for leaving it to others, it was impossible. Here, people fought with their strength, not by pretending to be pitiful. They wouldn't give you a water spirit fruit just because you were too pitiful. Even if there were 30 or 300 water spirit fruits, they wouldn't give one away even if they couldn't use them all, let alone 3. Cultivation was a very selfish thing, especially for outsiders. It was impossible for them to give anything away. It was the same for Yi Tianyun. He wasn't familiar with them. Snatching the spiritual fruits was his own ability. The water spirit fruit grew from heaven and earth and didn't belong to anyone. It wouldn't matter if he snatched it away. I have rainwater corals. They're not inferior to the water spirit fruit at all. I can take out 2. Lord Tai Bai Jinxing, I have a water-repellent pearl. Lord Tai Bai Jinxing, I have, 1 by 1, they quickly stood up and proposed the price of the exchange. Their disciples were in urgent need of the water spirit fruit. The rest of the things were basically impossible to replace. Chapter 1927. One by one, the Star Masters reported the price they could pay, and each was better than the other. However, Yi Tianyun still shook his head. These were of no use to him. The main point was that the items exchanged were all relatively ordinary. He kept the water spiritual fruit, and he could give it to Shueyun and the others in the future. As for the water corals, they were useful, but they were not as effective as the water spiritual fruit. Your Excellency, I have a treasure that should satisfy you, Elder Qing Shueyu suddenly said. Tianyun finally looked at them, and he said with some interest, "Oh, tell me about it." Now, Elder Qing Shueyu got attention. Otherwise, Tianyun would not even bother to look at them. However, Elder Qing Shueyu thought too much. Even if they did not kneel down and beg for mercy, he would not do anything to them. He had said before that he would not look into it. If he really wanted to look into it, he would only look into Qing Dan. He would not be as overbearing as other Star Lords, who would kill the 9 clans of others. However, Elder Qing Shueyu had heard too many similar things. How could he not beg for mercy? If he did not beg for mercy, he would probably die. We have a spiritual crystal of water that can be used with the water spiritual fruit. If the two are used together, the effect will reach the best level. Elder Qing Shueyu quickly took out a light blue crystal and said, "We won't exchange for the water spiritual fruit. We just want to give it to you as an apology." When Tianyun saw the spiritual crystal of water, his eyes lit up. He nodded and took it, saying, "Okay, thank you very much." Of course, he would not stand on ceremony. Since they had given it to him, he would accept it without any hesitation. "Then, please don't mind the mistake we made before," Elder Qing Shueyu said awkwardly. "I hope there won't be a next time," Tianyun said indifferently. "No, it will never happen again." Elder Qing Shueyu waved his hand quickly. Even Qing Dan and the others turned their heads away crazily. They did not dare to provoke Tianyun unless they wanted to die. "All right then, Scram." Tianyun waved his hand, not even bothering to look at them. Immediately after, Elder Qing Shueyu led them to express their thanks, then hurriedly got up and ran to the side, staying far away. However, they did not leave. Instead, they observed the situation from afar. Their attention had completely shifted to Qing Shui. After returning to the clan, tell the clan leader about the situation here. Transfer all the resources to Qing Shui and focus on nurturing her. Not only was Elder Qing Shueyu not angry at all, but he even shifted his attention to Qing Shui. Since Tianyun valued Qing Shui so much, he felt that there must be something going on. If he could establish a good relationship with her, wouldn't it be equivalent to having another Star Lord to help him? At that time, they wouldn't dare to say that they could do whatever they wanted, but it wouldn't be a problem for them to cause trouble in this area. Qing Dan and Qing Meng nodded. Although they were unwilling, they knew that this was the only thing they could do. Qing Dan looked at Qing Shui, who was picking the water spirit fruit in front of them, full of jealousy. He kept roaring in his heart, "Why? Why is it her and not me who gets such treatment?" Qing Meng had the same thought. Originally, they had been praised to the heavens in the clan. Now, the tables had turned. They would always be suppressed. Even without Tianyun's help in the future, Qing Shui, who had the water spirit fruit, would be able to greatly improve herself. At that time, she would definitely surpass them. However, they never thought about why Tianyun would give Qing Shui a chance encounter. It was purely because she was pleasing to the eye. Some kind-hearted and righteous cultivators must be treated with kindness. They were full of jealousy, but this was also based on the fact that they did not know the situation outside. If they knew the situation outside, they would not think like this. Along with the passage of time, Qingshue's hand gradually came into contact with the water spirit fruit, and in the end, she plucked it. At the same time, her body was already frozen into an ice sculpture. When she grabbed the water spirit fruit, she collapsed. "I finally got it." Qing Shui collapsed with a smile on her face. This was not easy for her. Unless she had the cultivation of a Star Master, it would not be easy at all. If an ordinary Star Master tried to forcefully pluck it, they might even die. The cold air released by the water spirit fruit was too overbearing. It could easily freeze a Star Master into an ice sculpture. It was already quite impressive that Qing Shui could hold on until now and successfully take it. Just as she was about to collapse, a force came from below and held her up. At the same time, it expelled the cold air from her body. The one who did it was naturally Yi Tianyun. Following that, he pulled Qing Shui in front of him and said with a smile, "Not bad. It seems that you did it. You did a very good job." Yi Tianyun was very satisfied with Qing Shui's performance. Previously, he estimated that Qing Shui would need a period of time to get used to it before she could successfully pluck it. Who knew that she would succeed on the first try? However, the risk was too great. It was a little too desperate. If she was not careful, she would be turned into an ice sculpture forever. Even her soul would be frozen into an ice sculpture. "Thank you, my lord." Qing Shui prostrated on the ground and thanked him with the most gratitude. This was the only thing she could do now. "You obtained this with your own strength. I was just a guide." Yi Tianyun waved his hand and said, "The rest is up to you. Go wherever you want to go." The fortune he gave her stopped here. Qing Shui also obtained the corresponding fortune. It was time for her to leave. "My lord, I am willing to follow you and be loyal to you forever." Qing Shui continued to kneel on the ground and made such a request. "What?" Elder Qing Shuiyu's face was filled with anger. He shouted, "Qing Shui, what are you saying? How can you betray our clan?" "I didn't betray the family. The family chose to abandon me." Qing Shui shook her head. "She was abandoned when she came in." "That's impossible. How could the family abandon you?" Elder Qing Shuiyu immediately shook his head and denied. Qing Shui was now with Lord Tai Bai Jinxing. With Lord Tai Bai Jinxing as her backer, the family couldn't wait to spoil her. How could they abandon her? At this time, the mist slowly disappeared, which meant that the Five Elements Mountain was opened. When it was opened, the mist disappeared. After that, it would be more convenient to communicate with others. Soon, Elder Qing Shuiyu received the message from the family. After knowing it, his face changed and he shouted, "Provoking the ancestral land of the Jade God." The ancestral land of the Jade God was the most terrifying force. No other forces dared to provoke it. Now, Yi Tianyun had provoked the ancestral land of the Jade God, which was basically a death sentence in advance. Chapter 1928. When they heard this news, Elder Qing Shuiyu and the others looked at Yi Tianyun as if they were looking at a dead man. "Elder, we shouldn't apologize. This fellow will be dealt with very soon." Qing Dan's voice transmission was filled with anger. He was not convinced. Previously, he had chosen to submit because he feared the Star Venerate's strength. Now that he heard that they had provoked the Jade God ancestral land, he wanted to laugh out loud. He felt that Yi Tianyun was dead for sure. This was retribution. "Idiot, we have to apologize no matter what. Who knows when the Jade God ancestral land will send people over? When the Jade God ancestral land sends people over, our clans will be destroyed several times over." Elder Qing Shuiyu snorted coldly. "We still have to apologize. It's fine to suffer for a while. However, we absolutely cannot accept this Qing Shui. We have to remove her from the clan and never consider her a clansman again." "That's right. This is simply a scourge. If we had not received the news in time, our clans would have been in danger." Qing Dan nodded heavily, feeling extremely carefree. Even Qing Meng felt extremely carefree when she heard the news. Now, no one would compete with them for resources. Even if Qing Shui obtained the water spirit fruit and became more talented than them in the future, it would be meaningless. After all, based on the current situation, she was basically sending herself to death. Especially now, if she joined Yi Tianyun's side, it would be an act of courting death. This kind of behavior made them want to clap and applaud. Previously, when Elder Qing Shuiyu said that he would distribute all the resources to Qing Shui, his mood had sunk to the bottom. Now that he heard this news, he suddenly brought it up again. The ups and downs were really unbearable. Indeed, I really did not expect such a thing to happen. I originally thought that we would have an expert helping us. Elder Qing Shuiyu shook his head. His feelings were also complicated. Originally, he thought that it would be great to have a backer, a star venerate as a backer. Unfortunately, this backer turned out to be a troublemaker. Of all the factions to provoke, he had to provoke the Jade God Ancestral Land. An existence that could kill 2-star venerates had to be extremely strong. With such a powerful backer, they would definitely be extremely happy to curry favor with him. However, if they offended the Jade God Ancestral Land, not to mention killing 2-star venerates, even killing 3 would be useless. The star monarchs of the Jade God Ancestral Land were equal to 5-star monarchs. This wasn't an exaggeration. They had a star venerable's inheritance, and they were much stronger than other factions. These words could only be said through voice transmissions. How could they dare to make even the slightest sound? If they were heard, they would be dead for sure. At this moment, the way they looked at Qing Shui was no longer the slightest bit envious, nor did they have any intention of stopping her. As long as they were with Yi Tianyun, they would definitely be implicated. On the other side, Yi Tianyun looked at Qing Shui, who was kneeling on the ground, and finally nodded. Since you've decided to join my side, you'll have to follow the rules and listen to my orders. I don't ask for much. I just want absolute loyalty. I don't care about anything else. Yi Tianyun didn't object to Qing Shui's joining. He had seen through Qing Shui's potential, so he was willing to take her as his attendant. If he trained her well, she would definitely be a great help. Thank you, sir. I'm absolutely loyal. I won't have any second thoughts. Qing Shui knelt on the ground again. However, the practitioners around them didn't envy her at all. They had also received the news from outside. When they learned Yi Tianyun had offended the Jade God Ancestral Land, they knew Yi Tianyun was doomed. They didn't want to curry favor with him at all. It was really not worthwhile to curry favor with a dying man. More importantly, they didn't want to have anything to do with Yi Tianyun. If the Jade God Ancestral Land investigated them, they would all be doomed. It wasn't the first time they had heard about the Jade God Ancestral Land's tyranny. If they were implicated, their whole clan would be exterminated. Yi Tianyun nodded. He lifted Qing Shui up and looked around. He had a general idea of the situation. From their eyes, it was as if they were looking at a dead man. He knew that the news of him offending the Jade God Ancestral Land must have spread. Let's go. Yi Tianyun waved his hand and left with the others. He didn't want to stay any longer. No one came to curry favor with him, and no one asked him to stay. They all stayed far away from him and watched him leave. After he left, people started to talk about him. They were all gloating, thinking that Yi Tianyun would definitely die. Unfortunately, the water spirit fruits had been taken away. They wouldn't have the chance to get them back. Sir, they all think that you will lose against the Jade God Ancestral Land. Qing Shui couldn't help but say. Oh? Do you think I will lose? Yi Tianyun looked at her and smiled. Sir, you are talented and powerful. You don't have a good chance of winning against the Jade God Ancestral Land. Qing Shui thought for a while and said boldly, if you hide for a while, you will have a chance against the Jade God Ancestral Land. She didn't just flatter him. She said what she needed to say. If she blindly flattered him, it would get him killed. What about you? Yi Tianyun looked at Han Long, wanting to hear what he had to say. Sir, this old servant will tell you the truth. Your chance of winning is slim. If you fight them head-on, you will die. Han Long said, just like Lady Qing Shui said, if you hide for a while and improve yourself, you will have a chance. They still thought that Yi Tianyun would lose. The Jade God Ancestral Land was too strong. It wasn't that Yi Tianyun was weak, but that the Jade God Ancestral Land was too strong. It was so strong that it was hard to resist. Even the two of them couldn't escape from this vicious circle. They had always been in a state of fear and respect for the Jade God ancestral land. Well, you two are telling the truth. Tianyun smiled and continued to walk forward. What if I say that I will win this time? The two of them looked at each other before lowering their heads and saying in a deep voice, "If Sir is willing to fight, we will definitely follow you into battle. No matter what Tianyun chooses, they will follow him to fight, no matter if it's right or wrong." Haha, the world is big. A Jade God ancestral land can't stop me. Tianyun's eyes were full of fighting spirit. Let alone Jade God ancestral land, even 2 Jade God ancestral lands can't stop me. But before that, we have to go in and pick a divine herb. Could it be that the divine herb that Lord wants to pluck is the 9 Revolution Stargrass? Qingshue's expression went grim as she asked hurriedly. It seems that you know a little bit. Yes, I want to pick the 9-turn stargrass, Tianyun said with a smile. Chapter 1929. Tianyun went deeper into the 5 Elements Mountain because he wanted to find the 9-rotation stargrass. If he could find it, he might be able to improve his star power. Unique astral aspect. Isn't this the highest level? Does the 9 revolutions stargrass have any effect? Qingxue, who was at the side, asked doubtfully. She knew about the 9-rotation stargrass, but it was only useful for low-level star aspect. For example, level 4 or level 5 star aspect would have a great chance to improve its level. As for the 6th grade star Dharma idol, there was no record of whether it would have any effect after consuming it. As for the unique star aspect, there were not many precedents. After all, if someone did it, they wouldn't spread it around. Sometimes it was good to keep a low profile. Not necessarily. I think it's still far from perfect. Tianyun shook his head. He felt the 5-color Emperor Dragon in his body. He felt it was still far from perfect. Even though its compatibility was very high now, it was still far from perfect. Compatibility was the degree of compatibility, it was completely different from perfection. He felt the 5-color Emperor Dragon was still far from perfect. It was only a semi-perfect body, not even a semi-perfect body. This was just his feeling. Therefore, when he learned that there was such a special 9-rotation stargrass in the 5 Elements Mountain, he decided to go in and have a look. You mean it can be even higher? Qingshui covered her mouth. She was very surprised. This was beyond her common sense. Han Long's eyes were full of longing. He also wanted the 9-rotation stargrass. His biggest problem now was that the level of his star aspect was too low. If he could improve it with the 9-rotation stargrass, it would be different. But he knew his own ability. The 9-rotation stargrass was in the depths of the 5 Elements Mountain. Without a strong cultivation, it was basically impossible to go in, let alone pick it. It was already a kind of luck for him to go in with Tianyun and see what was inside. Moreover, the 9-rotation stargrass might not be able to improve his level. It would definitely improve his level, but it was not certain whether it could improve his level. The higher the level, the lower the probability. This is just my speculation. There are no records of this in the literature. There is too little information in this area. The Jade God's ancestral land might have some records about it. Tianyun's eyes narrowed as he said, I feel that breaking through to the Star Venerable Realm requires the Star Dharma Avatar. Why is it so difficult to break through to the Star Venerable Realm? I'm afraid it's because your Star Dharma idol hasn't reached the standard yet. He didn't have any information on this, but based on his feelings, he could guess it. There's such a thing, they shook their heads. They could only think about it, but it was basically hopeless. He already had no hope of breaking through to Star Venerate, much less Star Venerate. As for Qingshui, she didn't think too much about it. She felt that it would be pretty good if she could break through to Grandmaster Xing. After all, once she broke through to Grandmaster Xing, she would be able to establish her own sect. Then, they continued forward. There weren't too many detours here, and there was a path that led to the deepest part. In this place, if you had the ability, you could walk in. If you didn't, you could just obediently scram. There weren't too many twists and turns. This time, they didn't take a carriage. The deeper they went, the more they had to pay attention to their surroundings. If they took a carriage again, they wouldn't even know how they died. Tianyun was confident in his strength, but it didn't mean he was absolutely invincible. As they went deeper, the fog became thicker. They couldn't even use their holy awareness to probe too deep, let alone their naked eyes. As expected, even Star Lords can't grasp the situation here. Tianyun frowned. Looking at Han Long and the others, he said, "You should go and explore the other areas. Let's see what opportunities you can find. I'll go in alone. If I bring you too, it will be hard to grasp the situation." Han Long and the others nodded. Although they were a little disappointed, they couldn't let Tianyun be distracted to protect them. It would be easy for accidents to happen. "Your Excellency will go first." Han Long and Qing Shui turned around and left. With Han Long's protection, they wouldn't run into any danger unless they ran into the powerful Star Master. However, no one would be stupid enough to provoke them. Unless an expert from the Jade God ancestral land came, no one would dare to cause trouble for a Star Venerate's follower. After they left, Tianyun focused on walking in. The fog outside had basically dissipated, and he could see everything clearly. The fog here did not dissipate all year round. If he went in, he would have to be more vigilant. According to the outside world, even Star Venerates had fallen here. Hence, one shouldn't think that a Star Venerate could do whatever he wanted here. If one was careless, not to mention doing whatever he wanted, one might even die here. After Tianyun entered, he could only see the path under his feet. The path here was very obvious. As long as one didn't walk randomly, one would not be able to walk out of it. But if they followed the original route, they would definitely be able to reach the area with the 9 Revolution Stargrass. That might not be the case. However, if one didn't follow this path, one might get lost in the fog. As Xiao Chen walked along this path, a cold light suddenly pounced on him, almost instantly closing in on his head. There was no warning at all, and it was already charging over. Everything was too sudden. It was like it appeared out of nowhere, catching him off guard. However, Tianyun, who had already raised his focus to the limit, noticed it long ago. He quickly extended his hand and punched forward, not showing any fear at all. Boom! The flash of light in the air was shattered by the punch. Then, half of the corpse fell to the ground with a dong sound. Tianyun looked down and discovered that he had killed a hunting dragon leopard that was known to be able to easily kill dragons. Its horrifying speed allowed it to instantly pounce on the enemy and tear the enemy's head to pieces before they could react. However, it was still lacking when facing Tianyun. The cultivation of a hunting dragon leopard is at the level of a late-stage Great Master Xing. No wonder those with low cultivation cannot enter. Tianyun looked at the corpse. Not letting Han Long and the rest in was the right choice. If he was too distracted, he might be decapitated. His cultivation was not weak. Logically, even if his head was crushed, it would be fine as long as his soul was not destroyed. However, these hunting dragon leopards pounced on him. How could they not tear his soul apart? They might even devour his soul. Tianyun perked up and continued to go deeper inside, keeping the same passage all the time. Finally, after killing a few hunting dragon leopards, he passed through this layer of fog. What entered his eyes was a spacious area. Chapter 1930. What entered Tianyun's vision was a group of cultivators fighting over a crystal. This crystal stone was held tightly in the hands of a woman. This woman held the crystal stone tightly as she continuously dodged in all directions, avoiding the attacks of the other grandmasters. There were still Star Masters here. As long as they gathered together and entered together, they would still be able to enter. Therefore, this group of cultivators who were fighting for the crystals were all Master Xing's cultivations. However, they were not ordinary Star Masters. They were all late-stage Star Masters and were not weak. Together with their star images, even if they were not as strong as Star Venerates, their overall strength was stronger than most Star Masters. These Star Masters were naturally Star Masters of the ancestral lands. Otherwise, they wouldn't be of such high quality. Fairy Fan Yu, hand over the Heaven Crystal Stone. You can't escape. The leader of the Star Masters laughed sinisterly. He surrounded Fairy Fan Yu, making it hard for her to escape. Leave the crystal and we'll spare your life. If you don't, you'll be going against our Jade God ancestral land. Fairy Fan Yu, we didn't attack you immediately because you're from the Brahma ancestral land. Do you really think we won't use force? There were 11 Star Masters in this group, which was quite a large number. They were strong enough to level any family. They could even fight against ancestral lands. Some of them were equivalent to half-step Star Venerate. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to come here. Jade God ancestral land? Tianyun squinted. He didn't expect this group of Star Masters to be from the Jade God ancestral land. He was wondering if the people from the Jade God ancestral land would come. Sure enough, they did. The Star Venerates didn't come, but they sent some elite Star Masters. This was a kind of training for them. The Star Venerates of the Jade God ancestral land weren't too interested. The other ancestral lands had to send Star Venerates to enter, but the Jade God ancestral land sent Star Masters to train themselves. Although he didn't have a good impression of the Jade God ancestral land, he wouldn't kill everyone immediately. Instead, he looked at Fairy Fan Yu to see how she was doing. Humph, you bunch of bandits, Goddess Fan Yu said coldly. You think you can win just because you have more people? Your Jade God ancestral land has always been like this, and you even want to take our Brahma ancestral land as a subsidiary. Let me tell you, there's no way. Yo, Fairy Fan Yu is giving you some face. Do you really think we won't dare to attack you? Grandmaster Lei Sixing looked her up and down and said coldly, if we didn't want to build a good relationship with your Brahma ancestral land, we would have attacked long ago. Who do you think you are, bitches? As long as our Lord gives the order, your Tianfan ancestral land will be flattened immediately. Come on. Our Brahma ancestral land doesn't fear any power. Your Jade God ancestral land wants to swallow us up and treat us well. Isn't that just a forced marriage? If we weren't female cultivators, you would have already flattened us. Why would you still be polite to us? Fairy Fan Yu sneered. I advise you to give up. Our Tianfan ancestral land will never become your vassal. If we really become your vassal, how are we different from the women of the Spring Garden? Spring Garden was actually a restaurant that pleased people. In order to gain the favor of the customers, the women inside were willing to obey any order. Quite arrogant? Lei Sixing sized her up with a dirty look and said with a sinister smile, I feel that you guys are no different from the Spring Garden. Since you've put it this way, let's not be polite anymore. Let's grab her and let her know our power. Ha! Everyone laughed heartily and quickly surrounded him. This time, they didn't hold back and used all kinds of methods to attack Fairy Fan Yu. Their attacks were extremely despicable, targeting her private areas. Shameless. Fairy Fan Yu's face turned red as she kept attacking. But how could she resist so many multi-star masters by herself? Her cultivation was at the late-stage Star Master level. It was impossible for her to deal with so many cultivators at once. Don't worry, I'll make you happy. Lacey sneered and continued to attack. He wasn't trying to kill her, but mainly to tease her. To them, it was impossible for Fairy Fan Yu to escape. How could she escape when surrounded by so many people? Therefore, they didn't need to worry. Even if I die, I won't let you have your way. Fairy Fan Yu gripped the celestial crystal tightly and increased her strength. If that's the case, I'll crush this celestial crystal and none of you will get it. The celestial crystal was not indestructible. With Fairy Fan Yu's cultivation, she could still crush it. If you crush it, not only will we humiliate you, but we'll also strip you naked and drag you outside as a public display, Lacey said fiercely. Anyway, we can still find celestial crystal here. You're not the only one. Fairy Fan Yu's face turned pale. This situation was disgusting. If that really happened, her reputation would be ruined. Don't even think about self-destructing. With our strength, we can definitely control you before you self-destruct. It might even make it easier for us to capture you, Lacey said confidently. He wasn't worried that Fairy Fan Yu would choose to self-destruct. Self-destruction required a certain amount of time, and the resistance would be weakened. After all, the power was gathered in the body. How could it be self-destruction? Don't worry, I won't self-destruct. I'll fight until the very last moment. Fairy Fan Yu's eyes were cold. She was ready to die. She wouldn't beg for mercy or commit suicide. She just wanted to bring these bastards to hell before she died. At this moment, a figure approached their battle area and attracted their attention. Someone came in, maybe he heard our conversation just now. We can't let him live. Master Xing suggested. If the news of how they treated Fairy Fan Yu got out, they would definitely be disliked by Tianfan Ancestral Land. Especially since Fairy Fan Yu's status was quite high, Tianfan Ancestral Land might be enraged. Fairy Fan Yu's eyes lit up when she saw the person. She quickly yelled, "Mister, hurry up and run. They want to kill you. After you escape, please spread the news that I was killed by Jade God Ancestral Land. Please." She could only use this method and hope that Tianyun could help her. She couldn't repay him, but this was the only way to let Tianfan Ancestral Land know the details. Chapter 1931. The words, "I'm not here to deliver a message," stunned Les and the others. They had not expected that the cultivator who had suddenly appeared would not know what was going on. Furthermore, he walked in as he spoke, saving them the trouble of chasing after him. After all, if the other party had turned and fled, he could have fled into the fog. Even if it was a little dangerous, he could at least avoid being chased. However, the other party did not flee. Instead, he foolishly walked in their direction. They had strange expressions and almost burst out laughing. "Surround him!" In the blink of an eye, 5 Star Masters surrounded Tianyun, blocking his path of retreat. There was almost no chance of him escaping. Fairy Fan Yu felt sorrowful when she saw this. She had not expected the cultivator who had suddenly appeared to not know what was going on. As long as one was not deaf, they would have heard Les and the others say that they would not let him off. However, he did not even flee. "You look unfamiliar. I wonder which faction you are from?" The one who surrounded Tianyun was Administrator Xie Yun of the Jade God Ancestral Land. He was on the same level as Administrator Les and was a late-stage Star Master. He was one of their leaders. Administrator Xie Yun sized up Tianyun, trying to see the characteristics of a faction. "Administrator Xie Yun, do you even need to care about that? No matter what faction it is, can it be stronger than our Jade God Ancestral Land?" Administrator Les laughed sinisterly. He did not care about it at all. In this region, the Jade God Ancestral Land was the strongest. They could do whatever they wanted and kill whoever they wanted. Why would they care about the other party? That's not true. Our Jade God Ancestral Land needs to know what kind of power the other party is. We need to see which power is so stupid as to raise such a fool. Enforcer Cloud laughed, and the other enforcers joined in. Not fleeing after seeing so many Star Masters? How could they not be stupid? They really wanted to see which faction was so stupid to nurture a Star Master, only to have him die here. Those who could enter this place had to be at least Star Master. As for Star Venerates, they did not think that Tianyun could be a Star Venerate. If he was, they would definitely know who he was. There were only so many ancestral lands and so many Star Venerate. How could they not know? Hence, from the start, they believed that Tianyun was not a Star Lord and was at most a late-stage Master Xing. He's just a passerby, don't hurt the innocent. Fairy Fan Yu yelled, if you want to deal with someone, deal with me. Oh, you even care about others? You can't even protect yourself, yet you still care about others. What an idiot. Deacon Leith sneered and looked at Tianyun with disdain. He's just like him, an idiot. Do you think we're as stupid as him? If we really let him go, do you think that, if the Brahma ancestral land were to find out? Although there's nothing to fear, there would still be some problems. If we kill you here, no one will know. Who knows if you were killed by those demonic beasts? Deacon Leith would not let Tianyun go. Only an idiot would do such a thing. Brat, I asked you a question. Why aren't you saying anything? Deacon Xie Yun looked at Tianyun in annoyance. The other party completely ignored his question. Tianyun looked up at him, and said indifferently, generally speaking, I don't want to talk to people who are about to die, but I will make an exception to say a few words. Your ancestral land of Jade God is too arrogant. Do you really think that no one in this world can stop you? Stop us? Enforcers Xie Yun and the others stared blankly for a moment before bursting into laughter. Enforcers Xie Yun laughed so hard that tears came out of his eyes. You think you can control us? Did you just come from the mountains? Do you know what power we are? He probably really came from the mountains. Otherwise, why would he ask such a question? Many factions that know about our Jade God ancestral land are already pissing their pants in fear. Why would they continue to come here? Deacon Leith shook his head and said, I didn't expect it to be so fun this time. I even met some people who were cultivating in the deep mountains and forests. I don't know how long they cultivated before coming out, so they don't know anything. They thought that Tianyun was an idiot who didn't know anything about the outside world. If he knew, why didn't he run away? Fairy Fan Yu sighed deeply, and looked at Tianyun with some sympathy. Facing their mocking gazes, Tianyun shook his head. I know that your Jade God ancestral land is full of arrogant people. In a while, I'll definitely flatten your Jade God ancestral land. Listen, what did we just hear? This brat wants to flatten our Jade God ancestral land? Deacon Xie Yun laughed so hard that his stomach hurt. How was this an idiot? He was simply a weirdo. Brat, there are so many factions here, but no one dares to say such a thing. If anyone dares to say such a thing, they will have their entire clan executed. Deacon Leith smiled coldly. However, you are lucky. This time, I will only kill you. I hope that your faction does not have so many idiots. If you say anything wrong, you will die without a grave. All right, let's not waste our breath on him. It's time to send him up. After that, we can focus on playing with Fairy Fan Yu. She is very famous outside. Deacon Xie Yun smiled sinisterly. When they prepared to turn around and attack Tianyun, a horrifying force pressed down. The image of a 5-colored sovereign dragon soared into the sky and pressed down. Boom! 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 Grandmaster Xing, who had surrounded Xiao Chen, directly turned to dust. Even Deacon Xie Yun, who had not even finished speaking, died. The aura of a star venerate spread into the surroundings, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. Fear immediately welled up in them. Star venerate? Deacon Leith, who was far away, was forced back by this aura. At the same time, he was stupefied. The other star venerates, including those who were still alive, were all scared silly by this scene. Such a young cultivator, the brat that was mocked earlier, was actually a star venerate? This was especially so when they saw the 5-colored sovereign dragon soar into the sky. Even in the mist-shrouded 5-element mountain, that vast and unique star aspect still shone brightly in the starry sky above. Nothing could stop this power. Fairy Fan Yu, who had been in despair, was also scared silly. A fledgling cultivator and a star venerate at that. Chapter 1932. It was not that they had never seen a star venerate before. In fact, they often saw star venerates and interacted with them. However, the fact that Tianyun was a star venerate was beyond their expectations. They had thought that he would be a great master Xing of some small faction. Who knew that he would become a star venerate in the blink of an eye? This was a star venerate. In this area, the ground would tremble when they stepped on it. This was the goal of most cultivators. As long as they became a star venerate, they could stand above billions of people. However, most cultivators could not break through to star venerate in their entire lives. The difficulty of breaking through was too high. They could only stop at star venerate or great master Xing. Now, Tianyun, someone they had never seen before, was actually a star venerate. They could not accept this. With a star venerate, how could they fight? No matter how close they were to the star venerate level, if they were not star venerates, they were not star venerates. Especially a star venerate with a unique star aspect. You are the cultivator who had the mysterious phenomenon last time. But that's not right. You are a star venerate. How can you not awaken your star aspect? Administrator Lei Si could not believe the scene in front of him. However, after seeing the situation, he somewhat believed that the mysterious phenomenon last time was caused by Tianyun. However, it did not make sense. Why was he so strong and had only just awakened his star aspect? No matter what, they had already offended Tianyun. Not to mention killing Tianyun, they could not even protect themselves. Is this very important? Tianyun walked over step by step and said indifferently, "Isn't the most important thing now how to beg for mercy?" Administrator Lei Si's eyes darkened. He smiled coldly and said, "Your cultivation is much stronger than ours. We admit this. However, it is impossible for us to beg for mercy. How can our Jade God ancestral land beg for mercy from you? Even if your cultivation is not bad, you are still far from our Jade God ancestral land's Lord Star Venerate. As long as you choose to join our Jade God ancestral land and submit your faction to us, we will not pursue this matter." If Deacon Xie Yun and the others had died in vain, they would have roped him in just like that. This was the cruelty of reality. As long as one's strength was inferior to others, they would be completely degraded and abandoned. "Oh, in that case, you won't pursue the matter of me killing so many of your star masters?" Tianyun smiled. Sure enough, these powers were carved from the same mold. They all chose to abandon their own people and rope in others. This kind of behavior was absolutely not allowed in his faction. He was not even willing to exchange for an ordinary soldier, let alone such a powerful cultivator. After all, doing so would only make his forces more and more chaotic. The ancestral land of Jade God dared to do this because they wanted to rope them in to do things for them. To put it bluntly, they just wanted to make use of them. It was impossible for them to treat them as their own. At the same time, the ancestral land of the Jade God knew that he could suppress them, which was why they kept trying to rope him in. No matter what, it was better to have a ready-made power than to nurture it slowly. Therefore, a small loss was still worth it. "We won't pursue the matter." After the shock, Deacon Les had already calmed down. There was no contempt in his eyes, but he was a bit cautious. "However, if you don't join us, we will definitely pursue the matter to the end." He was not afraid of Tianyun at all. This was the confidence of having a backer. They thought that the ancestral land of the Jade God was invincible. As long as they gave the order, no faction could not be wiped out. At the same time, he took out a jade token and said in a deep voice, "Now, your every move is recorded in this jade token. As long as you kill us, the news will immediately be sent out. Even here, it can still be sent out. This is supported by Lord Star-Lord's powerful strength." In the depths of the five-element mountain, it was not easy to send messages out. Originally, it was not difficult to send messages, but it became extremely difficult here. He hoped that he would not have to use this jade token. The Star Lord of the Jade God Ancestral Land had paid a huge price to make this jade token. If it was easy to make, Fairy Fan, you would have already had it. If one wanted to send a message here, they would have to pay a huge price. Unless it was a critical moment, they would not use it. Is this a threat? Tianyun said with a light smile. We just want to cooperate. You won't lose out if you join our ancestral land of the Jade God. Deacon Les said calmly. Fairy Fan, you panicked and said in a hurry, don't listen to his nonsense. If you join them, your faction and yourself will lose your freedom. You will be under their control. The ancestral land of the Jade God is famous for being shameless. They keep taking in other factions and want to completely control this area. Shut up. You don't have the right to speak here. Capture her. Deacon Les' eyes turned cold. If they did not have to deal with Tianyun, they would have already captured Fairy Fanyu. After giving the order, he turned to Tianyun and said with a smile, as long as you agree to join us, this Fairy Fan you will be given to you as a meeting gift. If we can take down the ancestral land of the heavenly Brahman, there are many female cultivators there for you to choose from. What do you think? They wanted to keep her for themselves, but Tianyun was a celestial lord after all. He could not ignore a celestial lord just because he had a strong backing. If they really joined, Deacon Les and the others would have to obey Tianyun's orders. Fairy Fanyu's face turned pale from anger. She roared at them, I am not your commodity. They did not even capture her and offered her as a top tier. It was truly a tragedy. Not now, but soon. Deacon Lacey sneered and turned to look at Tianyun, wanting to see what his decision is. Tianyun touched his chin and looked at them with a smile. Do you have any last words? But these words only prove the shamelessness of your ancestral land of the Jade God. I don't even have the appetite to eat with you guys. It's so disgusting. Deacon Les's eyes darkened. It seems you really want to go against our ancestral land of the Jade God. We have 3 lords in the late stage of celestial lords and even star venerables. Do you really think you are omnipotent and can overthrow our ancestral land of the Jade God? By the way, the celestial lord of the celestial pole ancestral land said the same thing to me before I killed him. Tianyun said calmly, if I destroy the celestial pole ancestral land, which is a dog of your ancestral land of the Jade God, will you let me go? Chapter 1933. How about it? Will you let me go after I kill your dog and take control of your ancestral land? Tianyun smiled and added, by the way, if I choose to join you, will you allow me to make such a mistake? Deacon Rice was silent for a moment before saying, if you choose to join us, we won't hold you accountable. A dog is a dog. If I get killed one day, I'm afraid they won't bother to hold me accountable as long as the other party joins them. Tianyun shook his head. The celestial Terminus Lord is really sad. He said that the ancestral land of the Jade God would definitely avenge him. Now it seems so ridiculous. If you lose it, you have no value and will naturally be abandoned. He knew why the other party made such a choice. If he was dead, what was the point of revenge? They needed the power to live, not the power to die. Although Deacon Rice was not an elder, his decision was basically the same as the elder's decision. It was not that he had too much power, but that they all had similar ideas. What they needed was the power to live. If you have no value, you will naturally be abandoned. Whether it is joining our forces or ourselves, if you have no value, you will be eliminated, Deacon Rice said indifferently. Don't you even understand this? Of course I understand this, but compared to you, I'm more like a person. Tianyun grinned. So, go to hell. The 5-colored Emperor Dragon Phantom appeared behind Tianyun again and pressed forward, wanting to completely kill them. Deacon Rice quickly crushed the jade pendant and did not even bother to dodge. Instead, he laughed crazily. You will know the difference between you and the ancestral land of the Jade God. In front of the ancestral land of the Jade God, you are nothing. Lord Tai Bai Jinxing will definitely avenge us. Ha ha ha. He laughed. Facing death, they were naturally afraid. But this was a Star Lord with a unique star Dharma. Could they escape? Naturally, they could not escape. They could only curse Yi Tianyun before they died. In the end, Deacon Rice and the others were easily killed. No matter how they resisted, no one could resist the suppression of the five-colored Emperor Dragon. After destroying it, Yi Tianyun's expression was relaxed. He didn't feel the slightest bit of fear because the information had been sent out. The ancestral land of the Jade God wouldn't let him go even if he didn't send a message. Of course, when he sent people over, he would definitely try to rope them in. But now they would not try to rope him in. Instead, they would directly come to kill him. Deacon Les had already sent the message, so it was naturally impossible to rope him in. If he didn't want to recruit him now, then he wouldn't be able to recruit him in the future. At the same time, the message was quickly transmitted to the Jade God ancestral ground. The Azure Flame Star Monarch, who was studying the situation, suddenly received a message. After reading it, his expression did not change. Oh, a unique astral dermic incarnation and a star venerate cultivation. This is rather peculiar. He even killed a celestial sovereign of the celestial pole ancestral land and refused to join our Jade God ancestral land. Emerald Flame Star Sovereign expressionlessly read the news without showing any anger or sadness. Someone dares to challenge the dignity of our Jade God ancestral land? Ridiculous. So what if he has a unique astral dermic incarnation? So what if he is a star venerate? He is just a joke before us. Based on Metal Wind Star Sovereign's bad temper, he will probably eliminate him immediately. He shook his head and continued with his research, not caring about this matter at all. In his opinion, it was enough for someone to deal with it. As for sending 3-star venerates, that was impossible. Sure enough, on the other side, Metal Wind Star Sovereign was so angry that he almost blew up the palace. He dares to ignore our Jade God ancestral land? It looks like our Jade God ancestral land hasn't made a move for a long time. How dare an insignificant star venerate attack us? Metal Wind Star Sovereign roared, deep in the 5-element mountain? Very well, I will go and meet him now. I will kill him in the 5-element mountain with one slap. Metal Wind Star Monarch immediately turned into a golden light and flew towards the 5 Elements Mountain at an extremely fast speed. He tore through the sky and quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Metal Wind Star Sovereign made a move. It looks like that guy is finished. Isn't that for sure? An ancestral land angered Metal Wind Star Sovereign a long time ago. Metal Wind Star Sovereign killed his way out immediately. When he returned, that ancestral land was flattened, leaving no one alive. Metal Wind Star Sovereign is too strong. I wonder what his true strength is. Who can make Metal Wind Star Sovereign use his full power? This time, the one who came out will probably not even need half of his strength to destroy them. They discussed this matter with great interest. They were all wondering when Yi Tianyun would be destroyed. Some bet on a week's time, some 3 days, and some slightly longer, around a month's time. In their opinion, Yi Tianyun would die without a doubt. No matter how famous he was in the outside world, he would be destroyed in one fell swoop. A long time ago, some factions opposed the Jade God ancestral land, but they never showed up again. That was because they were all destroyed. When the news spread in the Jade God ancestral land, most people treated it as a joke. Unique celestial dermic phases? Star venerates? They were all fake. Only the Jade God ancestral land was invincible in the world. On the other hand, Yi Tianyun didn't know anything about this. He was busy looting all the treasures of Deacon Leith and the others. How could he miss out on so many treasures? Fairy Fan Yu watched from the side with complicated feelings. No one knew what she was thinking. Fairy Fan Yu thought for a moment. Seeing that he was not hostile towards her, she said gratefully, "Thank you for saving me." "Saving you?" Eteonyon smiled. "Technically speaking, I didn't really save you. It just so happens that the Jade God Ancestral Land has a feud with me, so I just destroyed them. Even so, if it weren't for you, I would have been killed by them." Fan Yu Fairy shook her head, but when she was about to continue, she found that Eteonyon had already walked inside. He didn't even pay attention to her. She was startled at first, then furious. She was praised by everyone in the outside world. She never thought that Eteonyon would not even look at her. But thinking about it, it was normal for him to look down on her with his star venerate cultivation. "Wait." Fairy Fan Yu hurried over and said, "How can you do this? I haven't even finished speaking, and you've already left." Eteonyon turned to look at her and smiled. "What, you want to repay me?" Fairy Fan Yu was furious. She glared at him and said, "The times have changed. You even want to repay, you must have come for the 9 Revolution Stargrass, right?" "That's right, I do want to find the 9 Revolution Stargrass." Eteonyon squinted his eyes. "You actually want to use the celestial crystal stones as repayment, right? But since you seem to be in a hurry, use it yourself. I hope you can find it." Chapter 1934. Eteonyon's words stunned Goddess Fan Yu. He didn't play by the rules. Normally, he would choose to take the Heaven Crystal Stone. However, Eteonyon didn't do that and chose to search for it himself. The Heaven Crystal Stone was used to search for the 9 Revolution Stargrass. It could give a rough direction and make it easier to search for it. It was extremely difficult to find the 9 Revolution Stargrass in such a vast place. It was definitely not an easy task. Therefore, they needed the 9 Revolution Stargrass to be easier to find. They could also find it without the Heaven Crystal Stone. However, the chances were extremely low and they needed great luck to get it. The best proof of this was when he tried to take the Heaven Crystal Stone from Goddess Fan Yu. Deacon Les and the others could only rely on the Heaven Crystal Stone to find the 9 Revolution Stargrass. Those who entered this place were basically heading straight for the 9 Revolutions Stargrass. It was far more powerful than the Golden Divine Grass. The two weren't even on the same level. Now that Eteonyon was looking for the 9 Revolution Stargrass, he needed the Heaven Crystal Stone. Goddess Fan Yu thought that Eteonyon would immediately ask for the reward after she said it. However, he gave a completely different answer. "You, how can you say that? Aren't you looking for the 9 Revolution Stargrass? Without the Heaven Crystal Stone, it will be very difficult for you to find it." Goddess Fan Yu took out the Heaven Crystal Stone and waved it in front of Eteonyon, trying to tempt him. "I'm looking for the 9 Revolution Stargrass, but I don't expect to take something from a woman." Eteonyon smiled indifferently. You. Goddess Fan Yu was about to explode. She stuffed the Heaven Crystal Stone into Eteonyon's hands and said angrily, "I, Fan Yu, never want to owe anyone a favor. This is part of the reward. I can accompany you to find the 9 Revolution Stargrass for the rest of the reward. I believe that no one knows how to find the 9 Revolution Stargrass better than our Tianfan ancestral land. Oh, if you give this to me, won't your fellow sect members have any objections?" Eteonyon held onto the Heaven Crystal Stone. It would be even better if he had the Heaven Crystal Stone. "I came in alone," Goddess Fan Yu said calmly. You're the only one who came in. Looks like you've got guts. This place is so dangerous, and you came in alone. Even if you want to die, you don't have to play like this, right?" Eteonyon found it very funny. He didn't know whether to say that she was bold or too confident. This place was filled with danger. Even a star venerate could fall here, much less a late-stage Grandmaster Xing. I've said it before. No one is more proficient than our Brahma ancestral land in finding the 9 Revolution Stargrass. Fairy Fan Yu said proudly, "At least half of the 9 Revolution Stargrasses in the Elemental Mountain have been plucked by our Brahmin ancestral land. Oh, it looks like you're quite familiar with this place." Tianyun squinted his eyes. He did not expect this. Of course. Every time the 9 revolution stargrass is about to mature, our Brahma ancestral land will have a trial for the goddess. They will pick out the most outstanding disciples and come in to find the 9 revolution stargrass. If they successfully pluck it, they will become the new goddess. Fairy Fan Yu still had some pride. She even raised her nose high. You mean you're the most outstanding disciple of the new generation? Tianyun found it funny. That's right. I'm the most outstanding disciple. I'm quite familiar with this place. If I lead the way, you'll find it easier. Fairy Fan Yu smiled proudly. No matter how outstanding you are, you're still surrounded by the Jade God ancestral land. If I did not help you, you would have died here, Tianyun said. You? Fairy Fan Yu's pride immediately dissipated. Her tone weakened. If I put my life on the line, I could have killed some of them too. At most, we'll just die together. There was no point in saying more. It was indeed a blow to her that she almost died. All right, you're the best. It's just that your trial is stricter. You should have sent more people to protect you. It's dangerous enough already. Tianyun frowned. Even if it was a trial, there was no need to do it like this, right? If more people surrounded them, they would be dead for sure. All along, we've been following this rule. That's the only way we can display our abilities. Fairy Fan Yu shook her head. Plus, we came in with a map. It won't be too dangerous as long as we don't run around randomly. This is all because of the shamelessness of the Jade God ancestral land. You even have a map. No wonder you're so confident. Tianyun smiled. But if I take the 9 revolution stargrass when we find it, you won't be able to explain yourself. It doesn't matter. I can only wait for the next 9 revolution stargrass to mature. I will still have a chance then. Fairy Fan Yu was not dejected at all. You saved me after all and helped me get rid of those shameless cultivators of the Jade God ancestral land. Tell Master and the others when we get back. They will understand. Tianyun looked at her deeply, then smiled and said, All right, since you've said it like this, I'll have to trouble you to lead the way. Fairy Fan Yu finally looked more confident. No problem, as long as I lead the way, there won't be any problems. Goddess Fan Yu brought Tianyun inside. She didn't even take the heaven crystals with her. Generally speaking, it should be within this region. However, as to exactly where it is, we'll need the heaven crystal stones to find out. Fairy Fan Yu stopped and looked around. She then pointed forward and said, It's roughly this way. She brought Tianyun and flew forward. The front was filled with mist again, but Fairy Fan Yu wasn't worried at all. She had memorized all the directions in her mind, so she wasn't afraid of getting lost. After a few rounds, they quickly came out of the mist. Not far away, the heavenly crystal stone in Tianyun's hand began to emit a faint light, and a circle of halo spread around. Without a doubt, it sensed the 9 revolution stargrass. Looks like it's nearby. It should be this way. Fairy Fan Yu continued to bring Tianyun forward. After a few rounds, there was a small gap in front of them. At this moment, the heaven crystal in Tianyun's hand was glowing brighter and brighter, as if it was going to explode at any time. It's inside. Fairy Fan Yu was surprised. Looks like it's really easy. We found it so quickly. Fairy Fan Yu flew in first while Tianyun followed behind. As soon as they passed through the gap, there was an exclamation, Senior Sister Yuran, why are you here? Who are they? Chapter 1935. Acquaintances. Tianyun immediately felt something was wrong when he saw them. Especially when he saw the cultivators from Jade God ancestral land. He knew that things weren't as simple as they seemed. Now Fairy Fan Yu even saw acquaintances. They were supposed to be enemies, but now they were here. It was clear what it meant. Fairy Fan Yu was startled at first before she reacted. She wasn't an idiot and immediately knew what was going on. Senior sister Yuran, you colluded with the people from Jade God Ancestral Land and came in without permission. Fairy Fan Yu pointed at senior sister Yuran furiously. Anyone who wasn't blind would know what was going on. Especially since this was the trial to become the goddess. The people from Tianfan Ancestral Land couldn't come in together. Even if he had followed them here, he would have stayed outside instead of coming in. You didn't die? Senior sister Yuran looked at Fairy Fan Yu in shock. Her face turned cold after she saw who it was. I didn't expect you to be able to escape from so many people. Your people aren't strong enough. It's different from what you said before. Didn't you say they would definitely be able to solve it? Senior sister Yuran looked at the 3 Star Masters. The 3 of them moved immediately and went to the exit. This was a secret room with only a small gap as the exit. There was basically no hope of escape after blocking this place. You do have some ability to escape from so many deacons. Deacon Shu Lang glanced at Fairy Fan Yu before turning to Yi Tianyun. You even brought a helper. Looks like the rules of your Tianfan ancestral land are broken too. That's true. He looks quite handsome. Senior sister Yuran smiled. Little junior sister, you said I broke the rules. Didn't you break the rules yourself? Who knows where you hooked up with him and snuck in here for the trial? What a good plan. Senior sister Yuran, answer me. Did you betray the sect a long time ago? Fairy Fan Yu's aura rose as a sharp murderous intent surged out. A soft sword appeared in her hand out of nowhere. Her eyes were filled with anger as she gathered all her strength, ready to fight senior sister Yuran. Betray the sect? Senior sister Yuran's aura also surged as she retorted, that's because the sect was the first to betray me. The one who came to participate in the goddess trial should have been me, not you. We've already agreed on this before. Who knew that you would suddenly change your mind? You even said that I'm not talented enough. Whether in terms of talent or beauty, how am I inferior to you? Even his cultivation is higher than yours. Senior sister Yuran retorted, what ability do you have? You came out of nowhere and snatched away the position that originally belonged to me. Since that's the case, I'll come in myself and take what belongs to me. Take away what belongs to you. There's only 9 revolution stargrass. Do you think you have the chance to take it? Goddess Fan Yu glanced at the cultivators from the Jade God Ancestral Land. I wonder what you promised them that they would give you the 9 revolution stargrass. 9 revolution stargrass? They're not interested. Senior apprentice sister Yuran smiled brightly. They have their eyes on the beautiful flower that is the Brahma ancestral land. As long as I help them infiltrate it, everything will be mine. Even the position of ruler of the Brahma ancestral land will be mine. Her twisted expression was not beautiful at all. In fact, it was a little terrifying. As expected, every time there's a power struggle, it always ends up in an unpleasant situation. Yi Tianyun shook his head and said indifferently, I finally know why they didn't choose you to be the goddess. With your selfish thoughts, it's only natural that you can't become the goddess. If you really become the goddess, the Brahma ancestral land will be finished. Who are you? What gives you the right to speak to me like that? Do you know how much effort I put in to get this position? I worked so hard, I was so loyal, but it was snatched away in an instant. Do you know how it feels? Senior apprentice sister Yuran was going crazy as she roared at him. I don't know how it feels, and I don't want to know. I only know that you said so much. From the moment you betrayed us, you are nothing. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. I don't know, it's just a test, or something else is arranged for you, I can't say for sure. But no matter what, you have no way out. That's right, senior apprentice sister Yuran. We have always admired and respected you. We feel that you are very hard-working and talented. I don't know why the elders made such a choice, but they must have their reasons. Fairy Fan Yu walked towards senior apprentice sister Yuran. No matter what, I will clean up the sect today. She held her soft sword and flicked it lightly. Silver light shone. Humph, you think you can defeat me? Senior apprentice Sister Uran sneered. Then I will let you know the difference between us. Immediately, the two of them started fighting. The three deacons who were blocking the exit looked over with interest. They were not anxious at all. Little brother, which force are you from? Deacon Shu Lang was not in a hurry to attack. Instead, he asked from behind. Yi Tianyun could not be bothered with him. He just watched their fight from the side. I'm asking you a question. Deacon Shu Lang was furious. He did not expect his words to be ignored by the other party. Can you not disturb me? Yi Tianyun turned his head and looked at him plainly. You can do whatever you want. Just wait until this fight is over. How courageous! Deacon Shu Lang's eyes darkened. Then, he laughed, you will soon see your Dao companion being killed on the spot. Yuran is not weak. How can Fairy Fan Yu compare to her? Hee, not only is she strong, she is also not weak in any aspect. The deacon at the side chuckled. The three of them laughed sinisterly. It seemed like they had done something. Yi Tianyun felt disgusted at the side. It seemed like Yuran had betrayed him and done such a thing. Although they had made their own choices, it was still disgusting. Can she win? Yi Tianyun shook his head. I don't think so. Fairy Fan Yu is not weak. Soon, the two of them started fighting. Initially, Fairy Yuran was very strong. However, she was gradually suppressed by Fairy Fan Yu. In the end, she was completely suppressed. Boom! Fairy Yuran was sent flying. She was heavily injured and leaned against the wall. She looked at Fairy Fan Yu in disbelief. You have mastered the decisive sword art? The decisive sword art was one of the great martial arts of the Tianfan ancestral land. It was extremely difficult to cultivate. Chapter 1936. Fairy Fan Yu wasn't very familiar with it, but after being stimulated by Fairy Yuran, she immediately became familiar with it and improved her resolute sword technique. This was an emotional stimulation that greatly stimulated her, allowing her to further improve her martial arts in this aspect. Some martial arts required a certain level of emotional integration in order to be better cultivated. For example, the emotionless sword technique was difficult to cultivate if one wasn't emotionless enough. As for her resolute sword technique, it was actually similar to the emotionless sword technique. After being betrayed by Fairy Yuran, her talent was stimulated and improved. This kind of thing wasn't strange. In fact, it was common. You learned it after seeing me? Fairy Yuran was startled, but she didn't think too much about it. She shouted at the helpers in front of her, Why are you all still standing there? Kill her! If she escapes, not only will I be finished, but you will also be finished. Now that the plan had been leaked, they would naturally be punished. As for what kind of punishment they would receive, it was hard to say. The plan had been going so smoothly, and there was such a good spy. If it was exposed, everything would be over. Deacon Shu Lang and the rest were startled. They hadn't expected Fairy Yuran to really lose. Previously, they had boasted that Fairy Yuran would definitely win. Now, it seemed like their prediction was wrong. Kill this brat first to prevent him from escaping. Deacon Shu Lang wasn't in a hurry to save Fairy Yuran. Instead, he planned to kill Yi Tianyun first. If Yi Tianyun escaped, the plan would also fail. Yi Tianyun looked at them pouncing at him with an indifferent expression. Why aren't you going to save your little lover? If you are too late, it will be too late. Fairy Yuran laughed bitterly. She hadn't expected to lose. Although she was a little unwilling, they still had the advantage. How could so many multi-star masters not be able to deal with Fairy Fan Yu? Especially since they were from the Jade God ancestral land, the martial arts they possessed were of different levels. Save him? Fairy Fan Yu smiled and looked at her. Does he need me to save him? As soon as he finished speaking, the 5-colored monarch dragon's silhouette appeared, instantly forcing the 3 deacons to kneel on the ground. Forget killing Yi Tianyun, They couldn't even touch him. Lord Tai by jinxing? They were extremely shocked. They didn't expect the young man in front of them to be a Star Lord. This was extremely inconceivable. Unexpectedly, the person before them was a Star Venerate. When Fairy Yu Ran sensed this power, her face turned deathly pale. Then, she tilted her head back and laughed. I didn't expect you to win in the end. I lost to you in the selection of the goddess, and in terms of helpers. Why is the heavens so unfair? She laughed and cried. Her eyes were filled with anger and resentment, but she had no other choice. With a Star Venerate by his side, what was there to be afraid of? Unless a Star Venerate came, there was no need to fear them. At least for now, they were doomed. Which faction are you from? We are from the ancestral land of the Jade God. Don't you dare act recklessly. Deacon Shu Lang and the others shouted, hinting Tianyun not to be rash. Acting recklessly? I was the one who wanted to tell you not to act recklessly. Tianyun said indifferently, by the way, I killed all those who tried to act recklessly against me. Deacon Lei Si, Deacon Sha Yun, do you think the ancestral land of the Jade God will let me off? Deacon Shu Lang and the others paled. They were all killed by you. Tianyun did not answer them. Instead, he used his actions to answer them. He stomped on them, causing them to explode and dissipate into blood mist. He naturally did not care about the ancestral land of the Jade God. Even Deacon Lei Si and the others had been killed, let alone these three idiots. All of them have been dealt with. How are you going to deal with her? Tianyun glanced at Fairy Yu Ran. Are you going to capture her and bring her back for punishment, or are you going to kill her here? Fairy Fan Yu looked at her coldly and said, let's capture her and let the elders judge her. In the end, she did not kill Fairy Yu Ran. She was furious, but when she thought about how she could alert the elders of the ancestral land, she decided to bring her back. All right, it's up to you. Tianyun shifted his gaze to the side. There was also a stalk of grass in the corner of the wall. It was very inconspicuous. Just like the golden divine grass, it was also very inconspicuous. This was a sign of self-protection. It wanted to keep a low profile and hide itself. However, no matter how low profile it was useless after so many years of research. Unless they knew how to change their bodies and hide themselves in another way. Is this the 9 Revolution Star Grass? Tianyun looked at the inconspicuous 9 Revolution Star Grass. He knew that it would definitely shine brightly when it matured. That's right, this is the 9 Revolution Star Grass, the divine medicine that many cultivators have been yearning for. Fairy Fan Yu looked at the 9 Revolution Star Grass with some desire in her eyes. If she could obtain it, she would be able to complete the trial and become a goddess. However, she had to give it to Tianyun as a reward for saving her. It's called a divine medicine, but it's still based on the probability. Tianyun smiled faintly. It's just that the probability is higher. It doesn't mean that there will be a huge increase. If every stalk had such amazing effects, your Tianfan ancestral land would have dominated the ancestral land a long time ago. Fairy Fan Yu did not refute. She nodded and said, that's indeed the case. The rumors outside are too fierce. No matter what kind of divine medicine it is, it doesn't mean that it will have amazing effects, especially when it comes to increasing the power of the stars. Even with the help of a divine medicine, there is no guarantee of success. On the other hand, one's cultivation can really increase by a large margin. A divine medicine could allow one's cultivation to break through from an ordinary person to a star master, or even a star grandmaster. However, it really depended on luck to increase the power of the stars. Of course, if one was only at the first level, they would definitely increase their cultivation by consuming this thing. However, the success rate for those who were at the 4th or 5th level and above was extremely low. There was a huge difference between the two. If one's cultivation increased too quickly, their foundation would be unstable, and they would not be able to break through in the future. On the other hand, the higher the power of the stars, the better. They could not wait to kill their way to the 6th level, or even the unique star avatar level. This would not have any negative effects on him, only positive effect. It could be said that there were only benefits and no disadvantages. Under such circumstances, the difficulty naturally increased. Even the godly medicine was a little powerless. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.